Magic Puzzle Quest! Hooray! Yes! Welcome, I am your host, Steve. Oh, I should read that. I got ChatGPT to write an intro for Goz. I should read that out, shouldn't I? I should go and find that. I guess I better go and post yet another link to yet another stream in the Discord. Oh, the chat's up now. Hey! Hey! Thank God. Right, the chat's working. Everything's working. I'll post yet another link on the Discord because that's where most people will have joined me from. Let me just delete the old link. There we go. Just kids content. Yes. Welcome one. Welcome all. Let's finally start fucking talking about Lost Caverns of Ixalan, shall we? Well, first of all, I'm going to open this can of Monster. I know it's late, but, you know, fuck it. I won't be in bed for ages. And I definitely won't be now. Nom, 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 nom. What's to be said about Lost Caverns of Ixalan? Well, I think the first thing that needs to be said is that Wilds of Eldraine was shit, wasn't it? Wasn't it shit? Doesn't everyone think that it's shit? There's a prevailing theory that the only reason people aren't playing with Wilds of Ixalan cards in standard events is because they haven't had a chance to get them yet. But I just think it's because the set's shit. What was good in Wilds of Ixalan? People like Blossoming Tortoise, which, yeah, you know, that looks good. It's green, so I'm not going to be playing with it anytime soon for various reasons. You know, current brand new set accepting. There's a Bramble Familiar, but that's a lot of shit cards in Wilds of Ixalan. I think there's some terrible mechanics on there, like all of the rolls. Can anyone remember what all the rolls do off the top of their head? All 5 of them? Can you remember what all 5 they do? No, you can't, can you? I know you're all sitting there going, well, actually, Steve, this does this and this does this. Well, it's my stream and nobody can hear you, so ha ha! Nobody can remember what the rolls do, and you can't even find out what they do when you tap on them, and nobody's playing with them. And Adventure. Do you remember when we were doing the set review for Wilds of Eldraine? And, you know, we looked at a lot of the adventure cards, didn't we? And we said, well, they're admittedly better than last time. But that was only because they were really shit the time before, and they were slightly less shit this time. And, you know, adventure cards should be good. They're flip cards. Flip cards are great. Everybody loves flip cards. They allow you to play 11 cards in your 10-card deck. But you do have to make at least one of the sides good. I know Bramble Familiar is an adventure card. I don't even know if maybe people even use both sides of that card. But there were just a lot of really trashy adventure cards. So I hated Wilds of Eldraine. I was prepared to give Webcore a little bit of a pass for Wilds of Eldraine because it's quite possible that Octagon did most of the work on Wilds of Eldraine. So this here, I think is going to be the set we're going to be judging Webcore on. Yeah, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Did we like Spoiler Season? Spoiler Season was fun, wasn't it? It was a better way of introducing content. You know, God's got some cards to review. Main Loop got some cards to review. I think that's all the important. Nalthazar presumably got some cards to review. I think that's all the important creator. I can't think of anybody else who streams live on YouTube who could have had a preview card. Webcore. Can't think of anybody else. So yeah, but it was fun. We got to see some cards, and they weren't trash as well. There were some cards that I have problems with most of them because I'm Steve. You expect this of me, but you know, they certainly weren't trashy cards generally. And it was nice, you know, getting these cards coming out one by one. And then, look, we had the whole set just drop, bang, today, quite quick. It seems like it's been quite a reasonable turnaround from one set to the next, hasn't it? So we liked Spoiler Season generally, we liked, and the set coming out just before Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone! We liked that. Is there anything else to be said? I don't think so. I think we can just crack on, can't we, at 20 past fucking 9? Because Fucking kids content options in the fucking menus. Jesus Christ. Fuck them. That's what oh, right. That's why this isn't kids content. Oh, it makes sense now, actually, when you say it like that. Let's go into Chrome and have a look at the new mechanics for the set. Now, last time, I suppose there's one last thing that needs to be said. Is in the last set of streams, the video quality suddenly went shit after a certain amount of time, and I've no idea why. And if it does it again, I don't know how to fix it. Never seems to happen to Goz, but me live streaming, it seems to happen. My internet's fine. I don't have problems with my internet generally. I don't know. So apologies if it happens again. If it does happen again, I'm really going to have to look at moving to a different platform, aren't I? But I thought I'd go on YouTube. Twitch is always going to have that problem that after a week, it just throws away all of my content because I'm not popular enough. So that's just something to watch out for. I apologize if that is the case. You can all scroll along on your phones in the back, unless you're watching this on your phones, I suppose, in which case you can't do that, can you? Well, I'll be reading out what all the cards do anyway. What's new? Mechanics. Craft. Craft is an ability with a specific condition to satisfy to create a new card. The player can choose if and when they use this ability. We like that. Has some cards in the set with this mechanic. That's a strange sentence, but okay. Below is this description of the hint and icon of craft in MTGPQ cards. Anyone know where webcore come from? This doesn't sound like English as a first language, does it? But that's perfectly okay. At the end of your turn, you may exile X cards with a specified subtype from your hand. X is this card's craft value. If you do, this card becomes crafted. So, I mean, I don't mind this mechanically. The craft card I've seen before said something silly like craft 3 artifacts, which would be silly, you know, like it really depends on the numbers and the types, doesn't it? If a card says craft 1 spell, that's going to be great. If it says craft 6 dinosaurs, that's going to be shit. So I don't have a problem with it as a mechanic overall, as a concept. It really just depends on how narrow the effects are going to be. Let us move on to Descend. Descend is a conditional ability. When a player satisfies a condition, which involves a special support, oh good, that'll be crashing the game then, an effect described in the card happens. This special effect is different with each card with Descend, and the needed condition of the effect changes with a numeric variable. Right, okay. Below is this, I'm hoping this will become clear to me as I go along. Below is this description of the hint of Descend. Yes, blah, blah, blah. When you draw the first card with Descend, create a Descend support. So presumably this support is going to be, Descend is going to be a mechanic on a bunch of cards. As soon as you draw the first one, it goes pop onto the board. I guess it will be infinite, because it doesn't seem, if it's going to get destroyed, you've got a bit of a problem with the cards that you draw later on. So we're going to assume it's going to be infinite. Create a Descend support on the board. Every time a Descend support is matched, a Descend support kind of implies that there might be more than one on the board. Now, I'm guessing that you can only create one, but maybe you and your opponent can both create a Descend support, so maybe there can be 2 on the board. Or maybe there can just be 1. Who knows? Every time a Descend support is matched, increase a Descend support's level by 1. If a card has Descend value equal or less than the Descend support's level, perform this card's associated Descend effect. Equal or less. So this is an activated gem. Yeah, this is what I'm seeing. It's an activated gem. Every time the Descend support is matched, increase its level by 1. And then if the card has a value equal or less than the Descend support, this is an activated gem that only works a certain number of times. Yeah, so I've got a card that says Descend 5 on it, What that effectively means is I've got an activated, it's got activate 1 and it only works 5 times. Is everybody hearing this? Because that sounds fucking terrible to me. Activate 1 is not something you want to see written on a fucking card. And this is worse than activate 1. I mean, okay, maybe the effects are going to be really good. Fair enough. The descend support does remain on the board, unlike an activated gem, which will sod off for a little while, depending on who matches it. But this sounds bad to me. We'll bear it in mind, but it sounds bad. Discover. When triggering a discover ability, the player will fetch one of the first X non-land cards from the library. Non-land cards from the land. After that, the chosen card will gain half mana. Oh, wow. So, discover 2. You've got to assume the discover numbers are small, aren't they? Haven't you? Maybe they're not. You discover 2, you look at the top 2 cards of your library, and then the chosen card gains half mana. Oh, yeah, and obviously you fetch it, yeah. You put it in your hand, it gains half of its mana. I mean, that could be quite bloody good, couldn't it? I'm all for that. You know, it's Shades of Surveil, which is definitely one of the best mechanics we've ever had, isn't it? It seems very powerful. Pick one of the first X cards in your library, fetch that card, then that card gets half its mana. Move all cards that won't fetch to the bottom of your library. X is this card's discover. Yeah, okay, so that seems really good. It seems weird for a mechanic. It seems too good for a mechanic, doesn't it? It seems like an effect that goes on a card. Like that's like everything that Talent of the Telepath does. And that's just a card. So they're telling us that we're going to get cards that do things and then also fetches you a card and gives it half of its mana. I mean, they're going to be good, aren't they? Seems like they're going to be really good. Let's move on to the Planeswalkers. Quintorius Canned is a Loxodon. We like the Loxodons. We like the elephants in this house. He rings a bell, though. Have we seen him before? I feel like we've seen him before. Quintorius Canned. Maybe he's already been spoiled. I don't know. Let's see what he does. He's got fairly crap mana. What mana? That looks like Vraska mana. So the original Vraska, probably worse than that, actually. Couple of +3s, couple of +1s. Just seems meh, doesn't it? We'd like at least 3 +3s, really. If he's going to just have +3s, we'd like 3 of them, please, all across the board. 7 loyalty. Exile the top 9 cards of your library. Then those cards gain the Lawhold emblem. You gain X life. X is a number of cards with the Lawhold emblem in your exile. So gain 9 life then. So you pop it, you gain 9 life. Next time you pop it, you're going to gain 18 life. I mean, it's not having any effect on the board, is it? So straight away, you're thinking, why the fuck am I playing this guy when I could be playing Dakon? But frankly, that is a question you should always be asking yourself anyway. So whatevs. Not very good for a first ability. 12, create 5 archaeological spirit tokens. What have we got here? I think we've seen these before, haven't we? Didn't we see these in what's the Flappy Owl? Strixhaven. Flappy Owl Land. Yeah, we saw them in Flappy Owl Land. Strixhaven, archaeological spirit tokens. It's a 3/2 defender. Weird. So we're getting a 15/12 defender for 12 loyalty. I mean, that's kind of bad, isn't it? I don't mind a 15/12 defender. You know, it might block something. It might block a few things. It might even deal quite a bit of damage to my opponent. But for 12 whole loyalty, considering the first ability is also shit, seems bad. When a card leaves your graveyard, this card creature gets +1/+1. The effect can trigger up to 1 time per turn. Right, so not very exciting. So put a very large blocker in. Well, we can't call it a very large blocker, can we? Kiora creates a very large blocker with her ultimate. Put a decent sized blocker into play, but for 12 loyalty. What do you want? If you're putting like a 12/12 blocker in play, what do you rather play? The 14 mana from one of those colorless Colossus thing, Metalwork Colossus, or do you want to play 12 loyalty? I would rather have a Metalwork Colossus, please. Bit too expensive. Law holds knowledge. Deal X damage to your opponent's creatures and Planeswalker. Convert X gems to red. X is the number of cards with the Law Hold emblem in your exile. They've fallen into the old trap here, haven't they? Yeah. They've fallen into the old trap of thinking that ability 1 and ability 3 have synergy. When really what it means is that ability 3 is useless until you have used ability 1, which virtually increases the cost of ability 1. And create a Law Holds Sigil token. Let's just see what that does. Law Holds Sigil. The beginning of your turn, deal X damage to your opponent's Planeswalker and destroy X non-red gems. X is the number of cards with the Law Hold emblem in your exile. So it's pinging down. I mean, it's just... he does have some effect on the board, doesn't he, with his 15/12 blocker. It is a 15/12 blocker, isn't it? 3 2s. Yeah, 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10. I don't know where I got 15/12 from then. It's a 15/10 blocker. But mostly I've got to say, shit, don't buy him. Yeah, I don't think we should dwell on this guy. It's pretty obvious why he's not good. Don't think we should dwell on him anymore. Karn! We like a bit of Karen. Excellent. 7 loyalty, don't like it. Fetch the first artifact card from your library. Your coloured mana bonuses are increased by 2. Each of your mana bonuses can't be raised by this ability more than 3 times. Again, 7's too much, isn't it? It's a slow ability. It's not dumping any mana into things. Karn 1, now this guy is increasing your mana bonuses right across the board, whereas Karn 1 was only increasing the mana bonuses of the colour of the card that you fetched. Which sometimes could be a single colour of card. I mean, you would try and stack your deck full of as many multicoloured cards as possible. But it could be as little as 1 card. But you'd generally be playing with at least a lot. If you ended up with, if you were building a Karn deck and all of the best cards you wanted to put in the deck were single colour cards, you'd go and play with another Planeswalker. I know I would. Yeah, 7 is just too much for me for that. We're fetching a card, we're putting no mana into it at all, which is basically as good as not fucking getting a card. In my opinion. I can't see. I think it just looks too expensive, doesn't it? Let's have a look at the next one. 7 loyalty. Okay, fair enough. 7 loyalty is cheap for a second ability. Create a construct token. Then if that creature, then that creature gets +X/+X and gains hexproof and defender. Okay. Once again, we're creating a defender. X is the number of artifact cards you control, including their reinforcement. Well, that seems a bit small, doesn't it? That doesn't even seem like it's going to be a 15/10 defender, does it? Because that's quite a lot of bloody artifacts you've got to have in play. Now, what artifacts do we get? There are aren't there token artifacts? Ah, yes, there is gold going to be coming in this set, isn't there? So, I suppose there might be cards that just spam gold all over the place. And you can quite happily trigger this and get a 10/10 blocker all the time. I feel like it's going to be a bit slow. We will see. I wonder what support removal is going to be. I wonder if support removal is just going to get more and more worthless with the gold tokens coming in. It's bad enough as it is. Haven't we? Oh, we should have just flagged up, actually. When we got over here, did I flag this up? On the discover, I noticed this at the time, but I don't think I mentioned it. On the discover ability, the player will fetch one of the first non-land cards of the library. the chosen card will gain half mana. That's a really bad sign. The reason for that is because that's clearly being ported over from paper with no understanding that Magic Puzzle Quest is a different game. This is why Savale was so good in the first place, is because it was ported over from paper with no understanding that the two games, paper and Puzzle Quest, were at all different. We've got the same thing here. Now, this doesn't really affect this ability. Only being able to fetch non-land cards doesn't really affect this ability. But what it does say to me is that Webcore don't understand the game yet. Why did I bring that up? I don't even know. There was some reason why I wanted to bring that up, wouldn't I? Who knows? Let's move on to ability 3. Reinforce all artifact creatures you control. Then your artifact creatures get +X and trample. X is the number of artifact cards you control, including their reinforcement. Yeah, I just feel like you're going to have a shitty start of the game. I feel like we're going to be talking about combo a lot in this set. I have things to say about combo. We will get to specifics when we get to specific cards. But a Planeswalker who starts with +1 as all of its mana bonuses across the board and doesn't get to increase those until he's had 7 loyalty, and even then, pretty poor, another 7 loyalty, is probably going to be eaten alive by combo. It's a good job they haven't printed like loads of new combo cards in this set, isn't it? Phew. I'll be worried. I would be worried. If I was worried about combo, I would think to myself, oh, everything's fine because Webcore have not printed a load of new cards just for combo players who love playing a solitaire game. Thank goodness for that. So do I like Khan? It's all about his first ability for me. It's all about his first ability and the fact that it's too expensive. So I'm going to say no. Sorry, Khan. Let's have a quick scan through the changes and fixes. We don't see anything. Oh, that changed into the wilds of Eldraine. How fucking fascinating. Blossoming Tortoise apparently did broken things. Good, they're fixing that. That's good. No, I'm not seeing anything there. I'm certainly not seeing the words Void Rend written there. Apparently Outcast hasn't been fixed. I think Chris flagged that up just earlier today in the Discord. They said they were going to fix Outcast, but it's not in this. Yeah, it's not in the section here. And apparently has not been done. So that's a shame. But apparently it's on their radar. It might be up and coming. But, you know, we've all been playing this game for a while, haven't we? If Octagon ever said to us something like, we're going to completely overhaul matchmaking, you know, we'd be like, oh, really, are you? Yeah, we'll wait until we see it, actually. Thank you very much. So, 2 shitty Planeswalkers I'm not going to get. At least 1 mechanic that we're excited about. It's a good start, isn't it? Let us go off. Now, I like that picture. I don't like that picture. There you go. That's what I think. They've probably zoomed in on that one a bit much, haven't they? You can see all the brushstrokes on that piece of artwork. Which probably means they've zoomed in on that picture a bit too much. Maybe they should have picked a different piece of art to zoom it right the way in on. But for a change, we don't have to go off to Facebook. Let's just have a quick look at the chat while things are loading. Hello, everybody who's in. Welcome, welcome. Let's go off into cards. Let's have a look at Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Sorry, I'm just cleaning some gobs off my subway. I'm gobbing at my screen as I'm talking. Let's go in ascending order alphabetically. Oh, apparently I own 1 Wilds of Ixalan card. That's nice, isn't it? There are 225 in the set. Does that seem small? Not really. Sets are varying sizes, aren't they? Plus, we don't actually know how much art there is. So I suppose that's probably a reasonably sized set. And let's crack on. What have we got? Ward? Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess Ward's okay if they're just going to keep that being an evergreen. I guess it gives you a way out that Hexproof doesn't have. Does actually need to be on good creatures, though. You can't just put it on a creature and say that makes that creature good. When this creature attacks, you may exile another target creature you control. Well, I don't want to do that. If you do, return the first creature card from your exile into play under your control. I mean, small. 11 mana, 3/3. It's small. Something for the Johnnies. Mainly, you excited about that one? Goz is probably excited about this. Something for the Johnnies, flickering their cards in and out. We've had things in before that have flickered cards in and out. In fact, didn't we have a support that did it a while back? And I remember thinking, oh, that's quite good, and they're not using it. And and this is a 3/3 creature. Admittedly, a 3/3 creature that has ward. Slightly harder to kill, but still not very hard to kill. So, yeah, go enjoy yourself with that, Johnnies. I don't think I'm interested. Abuelo's Awakening. Return the first support card from your graveyard to play under your control. Then create some spirit tokens. X is the number of cards in your hand. I mean, that's okay. That's okay, isn't it? Obviously, we're going to be wanting to fetch into the multi-breach versus whatever it's called. There are things, aren't there? There are 20 mana supports that you want to get. Dakon, of course, very good at throwing supports into his graveyard. And there's no downside to this. It's only fetching the first one. You don't get any choice of it, but it's not limiting the cost of the one that you want to grab back out. So I never played with the last ones though. Me personally, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be really great. This I doubt it, but it looks okay. I don't mind it. And it's throws a few creatures into play. Whatever. Nobody's really going to be playing it for the creatures, but I'm sure they won't say no to the few extra points of damage. It's a reasonable card. Oh, hello. No. Yes, now, this is one of in fact, this might have been the first card that was spoiled for us, wasn't it, in spoiler season? And I was very quick to dismiss this card as being high shit tier. Now, I suppose I have softened slightly on my stance of this being high shit tier. The problem for me with this card is that all the power on it all pulls in different directions. Yeah? You've got a 4/4 with lifelink for 17, which is definitely too small. Okay, fair enough. We are creating bat tokens. Oh, do you know what? Maybe you're creating 4 bat tokens when your opponent discards 2 cards. See, unfortunately, this card gets better every time I look at it, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, if you are creating 4 bat tokens every time you discard 2 cards, it's growing in power quite quickly. When I first looked at it, I was thinking, well, 4/4 with 2 bat tokens a turn. It's quite a slow growth. 4 bat tokens a turn. I mean, we're getting to the point there where that's the same amount of power that Thopter Spy Network is throwing down on the table. We're making our opponent discard 2 cards. Now, once again, apparently, I should say this, apparently it's bugged at the moment. Well, we don't even know if it is bugged. Apparently it is making your opponent discard the top cards of their hand, not the bottom cards of their hand. Now, traditionally, discard has always specifically meant discarding the bottom cards of your hand. So I read it with that lens to start off with. And, there have been times in the past where I've quite liked cards that have made your opponent discard card, even discarding 1 card of a turn, And I might have described a card like that as a soft lock. Those days are long gone. Combo is with us now. Standard combo does crazy ass things, and the idea that you can put down a creature without summoning sickness, and give him a net loss of 1 card a turn with all the crazy shit that he's doing is somehow going to stop a combo player. That's just not true, is it? We're drawing a card, you know. I like drawing cards. That's all good. When this creature dies, transform it. Boom. Look, we get a land. That's even quite a good land, isn't it? Convert 3 gems to black. That's better lands than we've had as actual lands in the last sets. It's better land than anything we've got in standard. Problem with it as a land is it's hidden on the backside of this 17 mana 4/4. So for me, all the power is just pulling in different directions, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, so as I say, I've only just noticed it's a 4/4, and then it's 2 4/4s, and then it's a 4/4 and an 8/8. That is quite a large escalation of growth, if that indeed is what's happening. Has anyone played with this card yet? Is that actually what's happening? The back god is good. Maybe it is. I don't know. I was going to, as I say, originally I wrote this card off as a high shit tier. I was going to institute a new shit tier specifically for cards like this, which I was going to call God shit tier. But I mean, this is at least mid tier, I think. I'm still reluctant to put it all the way up in the top tier, just because it's a 17 mana 4/4. You know, it's going to get shot. It's a large creature that doesn't have summoning sickness. And as such, you can't fucking rely on these things. I don't like the fact that the land is on the back side of the card. I mean, what good is the land on the back side of the card? The whole point about land is that you play as early in the game as you possibly could, and it helps you play your cards. When you're building your deck, you can't count this as a land. You know, if you're deciding how expensive your mana curve should be, you can't count it as a land. You have to count it as a bloody 17 mana 4/4. Yeah? And then if you count that as a land, you're going to be fucked, aren't you? You're going to be the kind of person who wanders in onto the Discord at the weekend going, oh, I can't believe how lucky Greg got. I didn't get any cascades for 5 turns, and Greg got really lucky and played a load of cheap cards and killed me. And my expensive cards I couldn't even afford. Obviously you couldn't. So yes, I don't like the fact the land is on the back side of the card. You could call this a difficult to kill creature, and it is a bit difficult to kill, isn't it? Because look, when it dies, it transforms into a land. And then at the end of your turn, if you have 1 or less cards in your hand, you can destroy the land and put the bat back into play. But again, the thing about difficult to kill creatures is they aren't actually that difficult to kill. There are a lot of effects that get rid of difficult to kill creatures, like bounce, like exile, like disabling, you know? And a lot of really good cards do these things. You know, the Kami War does one of those things, you know? Harbinger of the fucking Tides does one of those things and does it really well. Don't underestimate bounce. Bounce is still a very good way of getting rid of fucking things off the board that you don't like. Sleep with the fishes. We can still play with those things. There's a lot of ways to deal with this. You know? Void Rend, you know, fair enough. Void Rend's going to turn it into a land, and then at some point it'll probably turn back into a creature. Or maybe even just stay a land and make your opponent cast more of his spells. Whatever. But yeah, difficult to kill creatures are not that difficult to kill, is the thing. Endless Detour, mate. It's a good card, seriously. Even still broken, it's a good card. So yes, I guess this guy's okay. I guess if he's creating 4 bat tokens every turn, it's okay. Am I going to play with it? I mean, I don't know. I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. It's that first turn. It's that 17 mana. I mean, you can't call it as good as Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, can you? And I'm certainly not opening games with that. You know, I love Teferi, Hero of Dominaria as a Vanguard. I play with it a lot. I rarely stick it down as my first play of the match. Because if I'm playing against a Pajami, what Pajami tends to do, while I'm spending 3 turns playing for my Teferi, what he tends to do is put some creatures down, and then he gets an irritating cascade, because he does that, and then he blows up your fucking expensive first play and just carries on barreling into your face. And it's exactly the same thing's going to happen with this. If you put this down, Pajami's just going to go, oh, that was a lovely 17 mana card, Void Rend, and just keep pummeling your face. I forget, somebody said this about paper, you know, if a creature costs 4 mana and doesn't do anything right fucking now, it's a bad card. It might have even been Chapin. I can't remember who said that, but that is probably what I think of this card. Will it see a lot of play? Maybe. Might see a lot of play in standard. People play with all kinds of cards that I don't think are top tier. So yeah, so it's probably going to be one to watch out for. Make sure you've got a wide variety in your removal suite. That is my advice for you. Shall we finally move on? Acrobatic Leap. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains flying. Well, at least it doesn't have text all over it. That's all I can say about this. Clearly it's bad, but at least it's not covered in text like Octagon would have done it. It's got flash as well. Yeah, once again. I'm remembering all of these things, Webcore, all of these little details that make me think, oh, right, you don't actually understand how an actual game of this game happens. They're all going in, and I'm just logging them. Adaptive Gem Guard. When this creature attacks, if you control another creature, this creature gets +1/+1. Then, if you don't control a support name map, create it. Well, I mean, I'm so pleased there's no way you can find out what a map does. I'm so pleased to. There's always fucking something with this damn game, isn't there? I thought, oh, well, because they've actually put the cards into the game and we're doing the review with the cards in the game, I'll just be able to click on the links and find out what everything does. Yeah, look, see, I can just click on flying, find out what flying does. No, they always forget to put it somewhere, don't they? It was the rolls last time. Again, the rolls were a real red flag, weren't they? You know, the fact that they couldn't, you couldn't click on the rolls on the card and actually read what they did, and you had to like learn what they did in advance. It's a real red flag. There's like the developers of the game don't actually care. Don't actually care if you know what the cards do on them. They just put them out there, put some text on them, throw them out the door. So yes, that's obviously a common card. I mean, it's quite powerful. 10 mana 4/4 that does some kind of thing and might do some pumpy thing. You'd expect that to be an uncommon, wouldn't you? Whatevs. Let's get on with a rare. Let's have a rare. Ackle-Packle. First among equal. Wasn't Ackle-Packle one of the Teletubbies? No, not Teletubby. In the Night Garden. Ackle-Packle. Yeah? Ackle-Packle. While on the battlefield, at the end of each player's turn, just another one going while on the battlefield. Oh, hello. Oh no, there we go. I'll leave it in the top corner and then I'll stop pulling up the Google Assistant thing. Well, it's going in there, Webcore. It's just another little reminder that you don't understand your own game. At the end of each player's turn, if an artifact enters into play under your control this turn, pick one of the first 3 cards of your library. At the end of each player's turn, if an artifact enters play under your control this turn, we'll assume it means, pick one of the first 3 cards of your library, fetch that card, then put the others at the bottom of your library. Oh, it's not getting any mana. That's not good. Put the others on the bottom of your library. When you cast a support card with the artifact subtype, this creature gets +1/+1. So I'm putting it into play. If an artifact came into play, I get to fetch a card. I get a little bit of choice over it. It doesn't get mana. This doesn't get big enough. I mean, it's not good enough, is it? It's as simple as that. It's not good enough. Now see, we got our first card with Descend now. When you create the first card with Descend, create Descend support. Yep. Every time it's matched, increase its level. If a card has a Descend value equal or less than the Descend support's level, perform this card's associated Descend effect as described. I mean, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because what that's doing, this is just something else to make it even worse than Activate, is that, say this is the first Descend card that I draw, yeah, and I get to use the Descend 4 effect on it 4 times, and then it never works again. And then later on in the game, I draw one of these, and it can never, ever do the thing, unless the Descend support happens to just lose levels as it's going along, which it doesn't seem to. It seems like the Descend support only is only useful at the start of the game. And then all of a sudden, after a while, the number gets too high and it doesn't fucking do anything anymore. Let's have a look at some of the effects anyway. These are some of the first effects that we've seen. They are only on an uncommon, but there you go. The beginning of combat on your turn. If your descend support level is 4 or more, right, it's a mistranslation, isn't it? If this card has a descend value equal or less than the descend supports level, perform this card's associated descend effect. That's not what it says on the card. It says if your descend support level is 4 or more. See, now that would make a lot more sense to me. I think we're going to assume that. Because those are two completely contradictory things, aren't they? It can't do the one thing, well, the level is less than or equal to, and also the other thing, well, it's more than or equal to. But it's written on the card here, look, actually here, is 4 or more. So we have to activate this gem 4 times. So this is an activate 1, remember? Remember how much we all love playing with activate 1 cards, and we have to hit that 1 activated gem 4 times to give this creature +2/+2. Is anybody seeing the problem with this? Shitty, isn't it? Really shitty. Descend 6. If it's 6 or more, this creature gets +2/+2 and gains menace. I mean, even if both of them trigger, and you've got to assume both of them trigger, haven't you? That if you've got descend 6, then it'll get +4/+4 and trample and menace. It's just too much, isn't it? 6 times you've got to hit that gem. It doesn't say match with a swap, but we don't really fucking care because the only players who are going to be able to match loads with gem conversion, and that's all coming up, boys and girls. The players who are playing with the broken gem conversion aren't playing fair decks. They're playing fucking combo decks, aren't they? And they're not going to be playing with Akawali the Seething Tower at all. I guess the thing we're going to have to watch out for then is the combo deck cogs that have descend. Amalia Benavides Aguirre. Okay. Drain 9 mana for ward, yeah, okay. When you gain life for the first time each turn, right, she doesn't actually gain you life. Problem. Target creature explores 2. Jesus Christ, I don't even remember what explore did. It gives things +1/+1 sometimes, doesn't it? Convert X times 2 gems on the board to this creature's colour. X is the amount listed on the keyword. If a match doesn't happen, that creature gets +X/+X. Right. So terrible then. When you explores 2, so you have to play this, you have to gain life from somewhere else. Then, if this creature's power is 20 or greater, destroy all creatures with base power 19 or less. I mean, I guess you've tried to do something there, Webcore. You've tried to do something there. I don't know if you know this, though, but there are cards that will just fucking kill everything anyway. Yeah? So, we don't need this rather terrible and unreliable way of killing things. I'm not at all interested in this 14 mana 4/4 go away. Ancestor's Aid. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn for 8 fucking mana. Piss off. Then create a gold token. Okay. An Impackle. Obviously related to Macapaka. 1000th Moon. That just sounds like somebody's got a list, doesn't it? 1000th Moon. I'm the 1000th Moon. When this creature attacks, this creature gets +1/+1. 12 mana. 2/5. Attacks as a 3/6. 4/7. 5/8. Are we excited by that? Not really. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create X gnome tokens. Okay, so it's doubling up then. X gnome tokens. X is this creature's power. It's okay. It's got that old problem, hasn't it? And in fact, the old Bat God we looked at earlier has this problem as well, you know, is that it's a token generator, but it is a creature itself, you know? So it's the thing we like about Thopter Spy Network, well, one of the many things we like about it, has always been that it's a non-creature that generates creatures. So if people are just good at blowing up your creatures, they have problems getting with the thing that's putting them back again. So this is okay, but probably not good enough. So I'm coming in with a 3/6 and immediately getting 3. And then I'm coming in with a 4/7. I put 4 onto the 3. So I'm coming in for 11. And then 5 and 5 onto the 7. So I'm coming in for 17. I guess that's escalating quite quick. It does only cost 12 mana. I'm sure there are going to be better threats. This is an okay threat. It's okay. Another chance. Destroy the top 3 cards of your library, then return the last creature card from your graveyard to you. It's got flash. Why has it got flash? For no reason at all. Because they get paid by the fucking word. That's why. Bartolome el Presidente. When a creature or artifact card is destroyed or loses a reinforcement, this creature gets +1/+1. Yeah, you can see from this, it being a 2/1 for 11, you can see that they really think that gold tokens are going to be a thing, don't they? They're not going to be that much of a thing. Basking Capybara. Descend 4. The beginning of your turn. Don't be too expensive. Obviously too expensive. Who cares? Activate 1 4 times, remember. Activate 1. We all love activate. Did we ever decide how much activate we needed? Activate 5 we quite like. We don't mind activate 5, do we? Activate 7 on Scheming Fence is okay. Activate 1, not so much. Bishop of Binder. This is our first masterpiece. How exciting. Will it be a good one, we wonder? When this card enters the battlefield, exile target opposing creature. So it's a removal spell. This card gains a bind emblem. Okay, so it's not really a removal spell. When this creature attacks, your vampire creatures get +X/X. X is the base cost of the last card in your opponent's exile. When this card leaves the battlefield, do the bind emblem thing. That's not really good enough to be a masterpiece, is it? A bad removal card. Not really good enough to be a masterpiece. Yeah, that's all there is to be said about this card. This is a bad removal card. I mean, it is a bad removal card on the upside, but it's a bad removal card. Bitter Triumph. Destroy a random opposing Vanguard support. If you can't destroy the first opposing creature, you lose 10 life. I mean, that's a much better bad removal card than this one. There are going to be better cards than this. That's fine. Destroy a Vanguard if you can't destroy a creature, it's untargeted. That's fine. But losing 10 life seems just a bit weird for 8 mana, doesn't it? Because I'm sure there are cards in standard right now that do this. I'm sure there are black cards. Obviously, we've got Voidren. That is targeted now. I'm sure there are black cards that do this thing and don't make you lose 10 life. Yeah. Rather odd that such a thing would exist. What have we got here? Bloodletter of Azcatzalot. That's how that's pronounced. When a creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, double that damage. So it's a 10 mana, 8/5. And it's doubling the damage of all your other creatures as well. I mean, it doesn't seem good enough, does it? We should talk about creatures at some point because creatures aren't really good enough. I am happy to see a 10 mana 8/5, you know, because usually we have to put up with much fucking poorer ratios than that. But I still think it's not good enough, is it? Especially if all of it's doing it's attacking, you know. I want to see a 10 mana 10/10 that's like got lifelink on it, you know. This is just kind of attacking. It does double up all of your creatures, but you know that doesn't really excite me. That don't impress me much, as Shania Twain once sang. I'm the kind of guy who didn't much like playing with Tanazir Quandrix, and he used to turn all your 1/1s into 7/7s, didn't he? So doubling up on creature damage, just creature combat damage, is not going to excite me that much. We'll move on from him, I think. Bone Horde Dracosaur. What have we got here? Bit small for a Berserker, isn't it? 6/6 for 16 mana. Berserker First Strike. It's a bit too small, isn't it? It's going to smack into anything good. And it's going to die. At the beginning of your turn, discover 4. Well, that's quite powerful. It's a shame that this creature's going to die, because I'd quite like to discover 4 at the start of each of my turns. I think that's really good, isn't it? At the start of every single turn, you look at the 4 first cards of your deck. Oh, they seem to have left the word non-land card out of here. That's good. Okay, fair enough. Well, I guess we'll see whether it affects lands or whether it doesn't. It gains half of its mana. That's a very powerful effect to be triggering every single turn. It's just a shame that this guy is going to smack into your opposing wall, and die. At the end of your turn, create a red... Oh, there's even more to it. Create a red dinosaur token. Well, that's not very interesting. So you get another 3/1. You get a gold token. I mean, it's all just about that berserk, isn't it? If you took that berserk symbol off the card, we could really talk about that card, I think. Couldn't we? I think we could really talk about that card. We'd be certainly in the ballpark of somebody like Velomachus Lorehold, wouldn't we? Drawing a card every turn, get some choice over it, putting some mana into it. We'd be in that ballpark, I think. But the Berserker, I fear, is just going to render this unplayable. Shame that. Nice try. Return target creature to its owner's hand for 14 mana? Fuck off. Oh, now we finally get to find out what map tokens do. Thank God for that. What do map tokens do? Target creature you control explores 2. Now, we remember what that does, don't we? I don't think we can. No, of course we can't. Look. Hypertext in hypertext. No, we can't have that. But we had some explore over here. Just to remind me what explore does. You're converting 4. Explore 2 converts 4 gems, and if you don't get a match, it gets +2/+2. So, I mean, that's an incredibly unreliable way of converting some gems. 14 mana for an effect. I know I said bounce was good. 14 mana for bounce is not good, you know? Harbinger doesn't even just cost 10, does it? Because it puts that extra 6 mana rider on the card that you bounce, you know? So that's a lot more efficient than that. 14 mana is just way too expensive for a bounce spell. 14 mana, frankly, too expensive for a direct kill spell. Brass's Tunnel Grinder. Here we have some levels. Oh, we've also got another side to this one. Oh, is this where all the lands are going to be hidden? Oh, God, no. Don't hide all of the lands on the backside of cards. Shit. When this support enters the board, discard all cards without mana from your hand. Not necessarily too big of a thing, but it's still not great. Then draw that many cards +1. Okay, fair enough. These cards gain 2 mana for each of these support shields. Which is probably not going to be too much. Oh, well, it's going to be exactly 3, isn't it? Because it happens when this... Oh, excuse me. When this support enters the board. So you're going to discard all cards without mana. You're going to draw that many cards, and then they're going to gain 6 mana. Oh, well, when I say it like that, sounds all right, doesn't it? Drawing a certain, in fact, you're probably going to get annoyed if you get a big cascade, because you're like, oh, well, I've wasted all that mana, even though you shouldn't be, because if you've got a big cascade and it put mana into all of your cards, then you've still got mana in all of it, and that's a good thing that you've got mana in your card, isn't it? So that's okay, isn't it? At the end of combat on your turn, if you matched one or more support gems, increase this card's level by 1. Okay. Beginning of your turn, if this card's level is 2 or more, transform the card. Beginning of your turn, convert 5 gems, to one of the colours of your greatest mana bonus. It's not bad, is it? Then, if the last card in your hand has 4 mana, discover 4. There's kind of a lot going on this card, isn't there? Is this card fucking great? So you play it for 10 mana, and it does the discardy draw thing, which isn't necessarily very much. If you slap it down early on, if you play this turn, if this is your first play, if you were to play it on turn 1, yeah, it's probably only going to discard 1 card, because you're not going to get exactly 10 mana to put it down. You'll have 3 cards in your hand. Yeah, this is one of them. You'll play that. You'll probably have to draw a little bit of mana into the next card along, because you're getting exactly 10 mana is pretty much impossible to do. So you'll discard 1 card, maybe, and you'll draw 2 cards and put 6 mana into both of them. That's okay, isn't it? Isn't that great? And then, as you go in along, if you match supports, it turns into this thing, which converts 5 gems to a single color. Now, it's there's no guarantee. If you're playing Ral, does this have a color? It's red, yeah. So it's playable with Ral. That's good. Just checking that. If you're playing Ral, there's no guarantee from what it says on the card that you're going to get blue mana every time you do it. You might get blue mana one turn, red mana the other turn. But you would think that, however Webcore coded it, they wouldn't bother switching it around, would you? You would think you probably get the same color of mana every time. And 5 gems of the same color at the beginning of your turn is pretty good. So I kind of don't mind this land being on the back side of this card, because the front side of this card is pretty good as well. Is this card great? It looks pretty fucking good, actually, this card. Oh, hello, Goz. I see Goz has come in. Welcome, welcome. I think I kind of like this card. I have to see how it goes in principle. I wonder if you get to draw a card if you don't discard anything. Because going by the wording on the card, if you discard, if you have no cards with no mana in your hand, you should draw 1 card and put 6 mana into it. If you were to draw no cards as a result of discarding no cards, that might make it slightly more problematical. This seems good. I'm going to be trying this out, actually. This seems like a good card to me. Definitely seems like worth experimenting with. I like it. I think. I like it. Yes, I like it a lot, probably, I think. I don't know! Yeah, try it out. I'll be getting that one, I think. Brazen Blade Master. When an artifact card... I mean, it's 5 mana, 2... There you go. It's quite small, isn't it? It's quite cheap for a bad card. Whatevs. Breaches! We've seen Breaches before. Apparently Breaches is a monkey. I never even realised that. What have we got? We've got a 3 mana 10/10 first strike. When a pirate enters the battlefield, creatures gain unblockable. Yeah, they always are. All creatures are unblockable all the time anyway. We don't care. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a gold token. then draw a card, it gains 5 mana. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this either, is there? Nothing wrong with Breaches. It's not the most impressive Jessian Thief, stroke Sigil Starfish card we've ever seen, but it's certainly a lot better than those cards. A 10 mana, the unblockable thing, largely pointless, but we're sprogging a gold token every turn. You know, and we might want to match the gold. Say, for example, what you wanted to do was match a supports gem every turn. You might want a gold token. I mean, this is not Xiatara Envoy, is it? That's what we should be comparing it to. Xiatara Envoy draws a card every turn and puts 15 mana into it. Now, Xiatara Envoy does cost 15 mana, so this costs a little bit less, but not a whole lot. So I suppose that this creature is probably not going to be good enough to make it into decks. I don't know. I mean, you compare it to Tovolar. I suppose that's a good thing to compare it to, is Tovolar. Tovolar is a card that I end up playing with because you have to play with the Kamigawa run. Is it called the Kamigawa run? There's a node that you have to play with just rare cards, don't you? You know? So I end up playing with Tovolar because Tovolar does, you know, the two things. Firstly, he draws cards and puts mana into it. That's what this guy does. And then secondly, he lets you dump all of the mana into your hand into a massive alpha strike that this guy doesn't do. So, yes. So he's probably not going to get play, is he? He's okay. He's probably not going to get play. He's okay, though. What have we got? Bringer of the Last Gift. When this creature, this 12 mana 6/6 defender, bad start, isn't it? When it enters the battlefield, destroy all creatures except for the first each player controls. We've seen that before, haven't we? There was one of the Gear Hulks, the white one did that, didn't it? Destroyed everything but the first creature. Then this creature gets +X. Oh, hello. Okay, so it's actually bigger than 6/6. X is a number of creatures in opposing graveyard. I mean, it's okay. The basic problem with this creature is if your opponent has one creature and it's bigger than this, and it's not going to do anything, is it? This is an okay card with a flaw that is big enough that it's probably going to prevent it from seeing play. You know, it is okay, but the flaw just seems too big to me. So you've got a Gaia's Revenge, have you? Aha! I will chump block it with this. Not very exciting when you put it like that, is it? Definitely high shit tier. Absolutely high shit tier, that card. Very high shit tier. Brood Rage Mycoid. At the end of your turn, if you descended, create a fungus token. Fungus is 1/1. Unimpressive. Buried Treasure. Activate 1. Now this is a function of Webcore not understanding what's going on. And like I say, this is okay, Webcore. We're still at the stage where we're not judging you too much for not understanding the game, right? But if you're listening, I mean, and you definitely aren't, but if you are listening, just take this on board. You can't read things that Octagon have written on cards and assumed, oh, they must be things that are relevant and worth writing on cards. You can't assume that about anything that Octagon's written on a card, because everything that Octagon did, and I cannot stress this enough, was absolute dog shit. Yeah? So if you see Activate 1 written on a card, don't think to yourself, oh, we'll make a load of Activate 1 cards. Yeah? The correct thing to do is to throw all of those mechanics in the bin and start again from scratch. Activate 1, gain 3 mana. I mean, fuck off. What was Discover again? I mean, that's not good enough, is it? Even though Discover 2 is a fairly decent effect, yeah? Putting it on this support that has got 3 shields takes away all of the power of Discover, you know? And it's hard to call this card worthless with Discover 2 on it. It's not worthless with Discover 2 on it, but you're not getting Discover 2 quickly enough to actually play with the damn thing. Burning Sun Cavalry. At the beginning of combat, If you control a dinosaur, this creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Yeah, that's another thing. Webcore, if you're listening, which you're definitely not. Just stop writing until end of turn on cards. There's no need for it. Deal X damage to each creature and a planeswalker. X is the number of land cards you control +2. That would be nice if there were any fucking land cards that were worth playing. And yeah, I know what you're saying. You're all out there saying, but Steve, what about the Bat God? Steve, what about that card that you just said you liked just now that I can't remember the name of, that red thing that made you discard and you got all the 6 mana and the things. You know the thing. What about playing with Blossoming Tortoise? That's really good. And we like those lands that you put in and they don't reinforce. We need better lands. We need better basic lands that you just put into play and are good and help you cast your spells. We need them desperately. Make some. I mean, maybe we've got some in this set. We still don't know, do we? I hope they haven't hidden all of the lands in this entire set on the back side of the cards. But I fear that they might have done. Canonized in Blood. If you descended, your first creature gets +1/+1. That's definitely not good enough. Activate 1. Oh, God, they're going all in on Activate 1. This is the Activate 1 set. Jesus Christ. Activate 1. Destroy this support and get a 4/3. Yeah, very exciting. When this creature attacks, you may disable your artifact support with the greatest shield until end of turn. If you do, discover 2. There's a world, you know. There is genuinely a world where this guy is better than this guy, because this guy is drawing a card every turn and giving it 5 mana. And this guy, if you don't mind disabling an artifact support, and if you're not playing with any artifacts, you just happen to have some gold tokens lying around, they're probably going to make an event that just makes gold tokens lie around. You probably don't even have to play them in your deck for certain events. I mean, maybe they should have made a planeswalker that made gold tokens. That would have been a good idea, wouldn't it? Too late now. Well, it's not too late now at all. You can make one if you want. You'll make a new one. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this card and I'm seeing that 13 mana is too high, but I'm saying draw, look up the first 2 cards in your deck every single turn, fetch one of them, it gains half its mana. And you can't call that a bad effect for a fucking uncommon. That's amazing. It's not quite up at, old Rocco levels, but that's amazing for an uncommon. Yes, you're almost certainly going to have to disable an artifact. It won't. I'm sure it won't trigger if you don't. Look, they're using if you do. Have you noticed that? Look, if you do the thing. It says do the thing. If you do, discover 2. I like that. Now, Octagon used to pretend that then meant the same thing. They used to say, oh, we use this terminology where we put then, which clearly isn't what then means in English, but Octagon used to pretend it did. I like if you do. I hope they carry on using the if you do terminology. So I like this card. It's not good enough to play. Almost certainly not good enough to play. Can't be good enough to play. Come on. Can't be. But I like it. And yeah, we're beginning to see the power of Discover 2. It's one of those, it really feels like, that they don't understand mechanics yet, does it? Because on one card, they're writing Activate 1, yeah? And on the other card, they're writing Discover 2. And they don't seem to understand that one of those effects is 50 billion times more powerful than the other one of these effects. That's okay. We'll just get excited about the Discover cards as we go along. Kaplan, Ripley, Van. Yeah, well, we had to get to it at some point, didn't we? We had to get to the point. Goz, if you're there, stop coming in your pants. Seriously, man. We have to talk about combo, I'm afraid. Because this is a combo card, isn't it? It's a 12 mana 3/3, whatever. When you cast a creature, this creature gets +3/+3. When you cast a spell, deals 6 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. When you cast a support, the first card in your hand gains 9 mana. This is a cog in a combo deck. And I feel like combo is too good at the moment, you know? Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, they did nerf Blade Core Serpent back, didn't they? It is still possible to build combo decks in Standard with Blade Core Serpent. They're a little less reliable than they used to be. But it's still highly possible to do, you know. And this is a cog in a combo deck. And I just... combo players, even combo players will tell you this. The thing that they like to do is the challenge of building the actual deck. Yeah? And the more combo pieces you give them, the easier it is to build that deck. And then they take it out into the field and they play the same game over and over and over again. This is what I like to do. I like to play a game where I play some cards and then my opponent plays some cards and then I play some cards and my opponent plays some cards. Yeah? And then the interactions between those cards create a multiplicity of games. Yeah? Thence arrives variety. What happens when you play a combo deck is you don't fucking care what your opponent plays. You just play the same cards going round on a loop over and over and over. It's very unlikely. Every so often, when you're playing Legacy, where you always play combo, you might run into somebody who plays something that you have to play around a little bit, like a test of talents. You know, you're going to have to blow a test of talents up to make your combo work. You're going to have to spend some time matching it off the board, and that's a pain. But pretty much mostly all the time, you just don't care about what your opponent plays. And it makes the game infinitely less varied and infinitely more boring. And all of these combo pieces, this one included, Catplane, Ripley, Vance, they all go into the same deck at the moment. There's a combo deck that exists in Magic Puzzle Quest. There's one combo deck at the moment, and it's a problem. And what it does is it has some effects that gain mana, and some effects that draw cards, and one single effect that wins you the game, and that's it. And this one's quite powerful because it does two of those things. It gains you some mana, and it wins you the game. You know, it doesn't do the two important things, like the cards like Wizard Class and Song of Creation in the past. They were better, weren't they? Because what they did was they gained you mana, and they drew you cards, and they let something else in the deck win the game. So I don't think this is the most broken combo piece we've ever seen. I think those two cards specifically are better. I just think printing a lot of combo pieces is a problem because it just makes it easier and easier to make combo. While at the same time, posting messages on our inbox saying things like, who needs creatures? Yeah, you might want to really think about that attitude. We'll get there. Oh, it's coming soon, isn't it? It's an E. The card, the Who Needs Creatures card is an E. So we'll get there fairly soon. But I just think we need to do something about it. Should be hard. Combo players will thank you for making it harder for them to build that. As long as they can do it, they like the challenge of putting these combo decks together. You know, they might even thank you if you print some cards they have to play around. Not silly cards they have to play around. Like they hate playing around things like Test of Talents. If you print a card that just shuts down their combo deck, they will hate you for that. You just make some cards that make it a little more difficult for them to go off. Yeah? I was playing against, what was that big beholder called? Xanadir or something? In the last Legacy event, I was playing my combo deck, because it's Legacy, and you always play combo in Legacy. And I had to play around this big beholder king thing. And what he did was, whenever I did anything, he would disable the first card in my hand. And I had to play around that a little bit. I had to put a card at the top of my hand and disable it, and then play the second card in my hand. And then I went off and killed him, and it was very easy to win. You know, I just had to play around it just a little bit. That's the type of thing I don't think combo players will mind too much. If it gives them a little bit of variety in their games, I think they'll probably thank you for it a little bit. Don't just print endless combo pieces and make combo easier and easier and easier to build. I think that's a terrible, terrible idea. We had a big discussion on the forums, didn't we, a little while ago, and there are some people going on there saying, I hate combo, there should be no combo in this game. That's a terrible idea. All kinds of players love combo, notably Goz. Mainly likes a bit of combo. You know, there are Plenty of players out there who like combo, but I think you should be very wary of putting it into standard. You know, there's plenty of room for combo and legacy. Anyway, that's most of my rant about combo, to be perfectly honest. So let's move on. Captain Storm. What's going on with that? Is that a gun? What's she got there? Is that a sword with an anchor in it? What is that thing? That looks like AI art to me, doesn't it? You know, you said AI, you told the AI, make a pirate with an anchor, and it's thrown different weird things together. And she's ended up with a sword with an anchor sticking in it. I don't know what the hell that is. Maybe that's just part of a plot. Maybe she's just got hold of an anchor by one of the bits that anchors usually have. I don't know what anchors usually look like. And that's part of some plot that I don't know about. But it just looks like weird AI art to me. Anyway, moving on. When an artifact support enters your board, your first pirate creature gets +1/+1. Definitely not good enough. 13 mana 2/2. Piss off. Excuse me, I just need to take my jumper off. Yeah, you can all imagine that happening. That's right, I look much sexier now in my unwashed t-shirt. Careening minecart, like it. I like the flavour on that, definitely. Bit of an Indiana Jones thing going on. When this support enters the board, your first creature with power 3 or more gains pilot. Not pilot! No! No! You see, this is the problem, isn't it? When you take over a game that has been maintained by Octagon, you can't do anything. Octagon haven't left you any instructions behind. They've left you plenty of destructions behind. Haven't left you. All you can do is go, oh, pilot. That must be a relevant part of the game. We'll make some more cards with pilot. No, don't can we bury pilot in a big fucking hole in the ground, please? At the beginning of your turn, creatures you control with pilot 3 or greater get +4/+4. See effects vehicle cards with crew equal to or less than this pirate value. Crew 3. Non-token creature gains the amount of mana. When your first creature attacks, create a gold token. Yeah, I mean, we don't care, do we? It's just, it's pilot. I mean, it's, if you strip away all the pilot stuff, you've got an equipment there, haven't you, that gives something +4/+4 and creates a gold token. You know? Just get rid of all that fucking pilot stuff. Just give us an equipment. +4/+4, make a gold token. This one, at least this one doesn't move pilot around. That was the really irritating thing about those old pilot cards, is the way it used to move pilot around. Mind you, what that does mean is that if the pilot creature dies, pilot doesn't come back. Yeah, this just should have been a fucking equipment. Fuck that pilot shit off. When this creature enters the battlefield, create a map token, which does the explore thing. Oh dear. Oops. Where were we? At the beginning of your turn, target creature you control explores 1. Convert 2 gems to this creature's colours. Right, so it's probably not going to do its own thing. I was just wondering if it was going to be a land creature. It wouldn't have been a very good land creature, but maybe if it had been a land creature, at the start of every turn, it would convert 2 gems. You know, we might have been able to talk about that. It's probably not going to convert any gems at all if it targets itself, is it? Because it's colourless. But we don't know. Who knows? Anyway, it's too small, and 2 gems a turn wouldn't be enough. So, moving on. Cavern of Souls. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. Well, for 15 mana, that's definitely not enough. Instead, if you have at least 2 different creatures that share a type in your library, convert 4 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. Still too expensive at 15, isn't it? It's interesting. Many years ago, I was quite into this whole mechanic, this mechanic about converting gems into your Planeswalker's colours. Corrupted Graphstone was one that did this back in SOI. And back then, I saw it as a way of like leveling the playing field a little bit between mono planeswalkers, which were obviously shit, and multicolored planeswalkers, which are obviously much better. Of course, back then, we hardly had any multicolored planeswalkers. And the power difference that these types of lands gives you doesn't mitigate the enormous difference just between being able to play with just huge swathes more cards. So yeah, I don't think I like it. Do you like it? Does anyone like this? 15 mana. You're going to be playing it in the typical thing to do is probably play it in a green deck. Yeah. Oh yeah, I suppose you all like it because you like playing with Blossoming Tortoise, don't you? And shit like that. You love having cheating your lands into play. I mean, okay, if you're cheating it into play, maybe it's okay. Who knows? It's for me personally, as a player who just wants to slap it down and start casting my spells with it as quickly as possible. It's a bit too expensive. But maybe you people who like doing broken things, who don't like to play fair, maybe you like it. When a creature enters the battlefield, if you have at least 3 different creatures that share a type, your first creature gains hexproof until the beginning of your turn. Temporary hexproof, bit shit, innit? Bit shit, temporary hexproof. Permanent hexproof, we're like, temporary hexproof. You can just wait until next turn. I don't think we're excited about Cavern of Souls. I don't know. Maybe, like I say, maybe you're Tortoise players. Maybe you're green. Wren and whatever the hell suffix Wren has these days. Maybe those players don't mind this. I'm not getting excited about Cavern of Souls. Cavern Stomper. It feels like we should have had a card called that before. 17 mana, 7/7. When it enters the battlefield, Surveil 3. Well, I'm very happy to see Surveil back again. Although now, you look at Surveil now and you think, oh, I wish I had Discover instead, don't you? Then, if another creature you control has the Dinosaur or Artifact subtype, your opponent's first creature can't block. So it's a 17 mana 7/7. Is a 17 mana 7/7 good? Of course it is not. When this card enters the battlefield, explores 2. I mean, it's better than an Orchard Spirit. That's exciting, isn't it? Child of the Volcano. If you descended, it gets +1/+1. Chimil, the Inner Sun. Cards in your hand can't have their mana drained or raised by effects your opponents control, except for ward effect. That's really interesting, isn't it? Octagon would have never written that on a card. I would probably have not thought of that. Have they play tested this game? Fuck me. It's a bit of a steady on, Webcore. Play testing? Jesus. Okay. I mean, it's fine, isn't it? At the end of your turn, discover 4, then discover 4. So that is extremely powerful, isn't it? We're playing 17 mana to put this thing into play. It's nice and resilient with 6 shields. And then you discover 4 twice. That's extremely powerful. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be good enough for me to play with. I'm not sure who's going to play with that. And maybe the combo players just won't like it because it doesn't trigger off itself. Do you know what I mean? Combo players, they like Captain Ripley Vance because you can just go, blah, there's 50 cards and I'm dead. You know? With this one, there is the possibility that your combo player they'll play it and they'll go, oh, I found the 2 cards I need for my 2-card combo. Not the combo deck, just a good old-fashioned combo. This card works well with this card, and then I win. You know, like Mechanized Warfare and Rem Carolus, the kind of thing that they nerf, yeah? That kind of thing. So not talking about the combo deck. Players of the combo deck aren't going to like this. But this is very, very powerful. I don't know if I'm going to be playing with it. But you cannot dismiss the power of 2 Discover 4s every turn, can you? You cannot dismiss that power. Half its mana, rounded down. It's good. It's definitely, I mean, I'm staring at it, trying to say more about it, and let's just say it's really good. And move on. Chupacabra Echo. When this creature enters the battlefield, target creature gets -X/-X until the end of your turn. X is the number of cards in your graveyard. No, we had a Chupacabra that just kills things before. -X/-X until the end of your turn. Fuck off. Clay-fired bricks. Craft 3. Oh dear. Now this is bad, isn't it? Because the craft card that I've seen before, I think, was 3 artifact as well. Crafting 3 art. That's a lot of fucking artifacts to put into your hand, you know? It's all very well saying, oh, I can just draw with like really broken cards, like Chimil the Inner Sun. You're not going to want to be, if I've just discovered 4 of those 2 cards, I'm going to want to play them and do really broken things with it. I'm probably not going to want to throw them away. Let's find out. Maybe I am. Maybe after I've discovered 4, so a couple of artifacts, maybe I am going to want to throw them away. Let's see what happens. When this support enters the board, if there are 6 or less white gems, convert 2 gems to white. Not very good. Then you gain 10 life. Still not very good. It's only the crafting that's going to make this card interesting, isn't it? So we're going to craft 3 artifacts. At the end of your turn, you may exile it. Oh, okay. I was thinking you'd exile it as it went along. It's a little worse, isn't it? The fact that you've got to exile cards at the end of your turn. I was thinking, since you can exile cards, you can just do it, but you can't. We get a Cosmium Kiln. When this support enters the board, create 2... Is that it? Are you fucking kidding me? That's what that's what I've thrown away 3 artifacts for. Is to have 2 gnomes, which I'm sure are going to be... No, of course I can't click on the gnomes to find out what they are. To get 2 gnomes and then give my creatures +2/+2. For 3 artifacts, I'm going to want everything to get at least +15/+15. Thanks very much. I mean, it's an uncommon. We expect uncommons to be bad. It does not bode well for craft, does it? It looks like craft is going to be a washout. We like Discover. We hate Descend. When this card enters the battlefield, if your Descend support level is 2 or more, you may return the last creature or support from your graveyard to your hand. Right. Rubbish, obviously. When this card enters the battlefield, target opposing creature gets -3/-1 until it... Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving it -3/-1. Most kind. When this creature enters... Geez, we've only got to see. I've sat down in my chair and I've adopted an attitude of mild resignation, and we've only got to Compass Gnome. I've got about 4 more hours of this shit to go through. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may pick one of the first 3 lands from your library. If you do fetch that card, you do not put mana in it, and as such, it is not a good card. When this support enters the board, 3 Skeleton Pirate tokens. They are 2/1s. Okay, so we get a 6/3 creature for 16 mana. When a non-token creature you control dies, so not a Skeleton Pirate token, so it's not just going to keep going with itself, create a Skeleton Pirate token. End of turn, if you descended, create X Skeleton Pirate tokens. X is the number of skeleton cards you control. So it is doubling up on the Skeleton Pirate tokens, I suppose. We are getting 3 of them, and if you happen to have descended, it doesn't actually descend itself. Doesn't that create the descend token itself, does it? But it's doubling up in a reasonably pleasing way. I mean, there might be a Johnny out here who quite likes this card. Nah, not a Johnny. Probably just a Timmy, to be perfectly honest. I don't think the Johnnies will all like it. But you are getting a 6/3, and if you happen to descend, it doubles up to 12 power, and if you happen to descend, it doubles up to 24 power. There might be a Timmy who quite likes it. It's not for me. The beginning of your turn, if you control a cave card... Okay, I don't remember seeing a lot of those. There's some lands, weren't there? I think that wasn't that last... Well, that wasn't a cave. That was a cave. Oh, dear me. Cavern of Souls was a cave. Yeah, I think we're going to be finding out that some of the lands we've been skipping past were caves. That's something WotC tend to do, isn't it? Is they just make up a... Because they don't want new cards triggering on, you know, every land card they've ever printed. So they make all of the land cards in one set caves. That's probably what's happened here. If you control a cave card, create 1 green elemental tokens. It's a 2/2. That's not a lot. Then you may destroy target opposing enchantment. But you have to have a cave in order to do it. At the end of your turn, if this card is in your hand or in play, the first cave card in your hand that can gain mana gains half its mana. I'm not seeing the killer app here, to be perfectly honest. I've not seen enough caves that I like yet. Just destroying enchantments, even as a repeatable effect, not good enough, is it? Descend 5. If your descend support level is 5 or more, return target creature to its owner's hand. What? See, my brain scanned that card and it went, oh, that's terrible. You have to get this card all the way up to descend 5 before you can bounce a creature every turn. No, you have to get this card to descend 5 before you can bounce a creature once when it enters the battlefield. What a piece of shit. They've done wrong by bounce, haven't they? They must have heard me say that bounce was good. Yeah? I've always said bounce was good in the past, haven't I? And they're like, right, let's make bounce as shitty as possible, just to annoy Steve. Curator of Sun's Creation. The beginning of your turn, discover 2, then discover 2. Now we are really fucking starting to talk now, aren't we? Maybe I shouldn't be scrolling back. Let's do it this way, because back here we had... It wasn't that one. I'm sure it was red and white. We had this one, didn't we? And the costs were comparable. 30 mana, 4/4 this one is. But you had to have an artifact in play and you had to disable it. So if it was a good one, that might be a bad thing to do and you got to discover 2. Now this is a very big step up. This is a 14 mana 3/3. And at the beginning of your turn, every turn you look at the top 4 cards in your library, you put 2 of them in your hand, and they gain half of their mana. Unfortunately, the 14 mana brings this into the realm of Chimil the Inner Sun, isn't it? So we can't really get excited about a 14 mana 3/3 that does 2 discover 2s when a 17 mana that does 2 discover 4s exists, can we? But I mean, that's proper high shit tier, that, isn't it? So yes, we need something cheaper now, though, don't we? What we need now, obviously they've misunderstood the power of Discover, but again, a 14 mana that does 2 discover 2s. What we're looking for now is, say, a 6 mana 2/2 that does 2 discover 2, or maybe how about a 6 mana 2/2 that does like just 1 discover 4? How about that? We'd be fucking talking then, wouldn't we? I'd be playing that bad boy. Curse of Opulence. When a creature attacks, create 2 treasure tokens. When a player matches a treasure supports gem, create a treasure supports gem. Vance is bugged, so it triggers on summoning creatures. Oh, right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. That's just something I read in the chat just there. So, Curse of Opulence. This is one of the cards I've already seen. It's been spoiled. And it's his treasure tokens a go-go, isn't it? As soon as this comes into play, every time a treasure token gets popped, another treasure token comes back into play. I mean, it seems a little bit too Johnny for my liking. You know, and too Johnny, you know. Somebody mentioned Shattergang Brothers, you know, playing this with Shattergang Brothers. And that's all well and good. But do you really need the extreme power of putting this card that does nothing on its own into play? Yeah. Just making loads of gold tokens. Or do you just want generally a good card that just makes some gold tokens to play with Shattergang Brothers? And I think you probably want the former rather than the latter, you know? So this seems a bit too Johnny for. There'll be players that like it. I'm sure there'll be players that like it. But it's I expect it's not for me. Daring Disco. Again, it's not the combo deck. There's the problem I have is with the combo deck. I don't mind a combo deck quite so much. You know? Unless it turns out to be really, really broken. The thing about this card is I might not be able to blow it up. Even with all of my Demolishes and Void Rens and Endless Detours and Broker's Charms that I like to load my decks up with. If there's just tons of treasure tokens on the board, I might not be able to blow this up. So who knows? Maybe it'll give me grief. Daring Discovery. All creatures you control gain unblockable. What? 16 mana? What the fuck with the 16 mana? I mean, even with Discover 2 on it, 16 mana, it's garbage, isn't it? Dauntless Disbanded. At the beginning of your turn, opposing artifact support loses 1 shield. If you can't, an opposing Vanguard support loses 2 shield. Needs more power, doesn't it? Don't mind something that sits in play, killing your opponent's stuff, but this is too small. Sitting in play, killing your opponent's stuff, not nearly fast enough. More power on that type of thing, please. The end of turn, if you descended, it gets +1. Fucking put some more Discover on it. We want Discover on everything, please. When this support enters the board, a Merfolk token, they are 1/1. That's not good enough, is it? When a Merfolk creature you control attacks, create a Merfolk token. Too small. In it. Way too small. It's got that problem as well that, like, if you were to just play this and get a Merfolk and then the Merfolk dies, it's got no way of putting a Merfolk back into play, has it? You're going to go and have to find another Merfolk from somewhere. I know, Thought to Spy Network actually does need another support, but that's needing to play another support when you've probably put some quite good ones in your deck. It's not nearly as bad as needing to play another Merfolk, is it? And this thing, putting 1 extra power into play every turn. Bad. Return the first creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then target creature you control explores 2. Seems too expensive, doesn't it, at 12 mana? Don't we already have this type of effect in Origins at rare for like 8 or 9 mana? 12 mana seems too expensive. Maybe not awful, since you might be able to put a really enormous creature into play. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we already have this effect cheaper in Origins. It might not have Explore 2 on it, but who fucking cares about Explore 2? Diamond Pickaxe. There you go. This is the type of thing you should be doing with Pilot. Beginning of your turn, your first creature gets +2/+2. Right. Webcore. Again, there's no way you know this. don't have equipment trigger at the start of the turn. Yeah, just don't do that. Octagon didn't really know what they were doing with equipment. Look at the way that equipment is written, the way that Hibernum wrote equipment back in Origins. You know, your first creature gets +2/+2, full stop, the end. Yeah. Octagon started doing this thing here that says your first creature at the beginning of your turn gets +2/+2. Yeah. To avoid that problem where when you attack with creatures, the equipment, when they start dying, they start throwing the equipment back down the line. So every single creature ends up attacking with the same equipment. And it's stupid. And they were too stupid to know how to fix that problem. So they started writing equipment like this. Stop, write sensible code. And you know, obviously this is equipment that's uncommon and it's not good enough for anyone to actually play with. But, you know, so that's just a note. Didact Echo, descend 4. Well, there's just a lot of things I don't care about on there, isn't there? When it's got support level 4, it gains flying. Thank you so much. And I've matched the one single descend support on the board 4 times. This creature's going to gain flying for me. Again, Towergeist, fucking Towergeist. Go and look it up. Dig Site Conservator. At the beginning of your turn, you may destroy this card. If you do, exile all cards in your opponent's graveyard. Definitely not powerful. We can have a card that exiles all cards in your opponent's graveyards, but it probably should do a lot of other stuff as well. But I think there is, isn't there? Riveteer's Charm, in fact. We're all waiting to use Riveteer's Charm. We're all waiting for you, Webcore, to fix Outcast to do what it was always supposed to do. And then Octagon tried to pretend it wasn't what it was always supposed to do. And then we can all play with Riveteer's Charm. And that's the kind of level of power of a card that exiles all of the cards in your opponent's graveyard should be. We can't have a card that just does that. It's not enough of an effect. Discover 2, notwithstanding. When this creature enters the battlefield, target creature gains menace. We don't care. Dire Flail. Craft 1 artifact. Okay, this is better, isn't it? Craft 1 artifact. Craft 3 artifact just sounded silly, especially on an uncommon card. But craft 1 artifact, this sounds much more doable, doesn't it? Now, does that work? Do you have to play this card? I think this card has to be in play, doesn't it? And then you, at the end of the turn, you say, yep, I'll get rid of that card. I mean, I'm hoping you can choose the card. Since it triggers at the end of the turn, I'm hoping you can choose the artifact you want to get rid of. I mean, yes, okay, you'll probably be able to move them around in your hand, and it'll probably always be the last one or always be the first one or whatever, even if you can't choose them. But it's a thing. I'd rather just be able to exile them whenever I liked. Beginning of your turn, your first creature gets +4/+0. Okay, not good enough. When this card is crafted, here we go. Exile this card and create a dire blunderbuss. Your first creature gets +6/+0. Ooh. When your first creature attacks, deal X damage to target creature. X is the power of your first creature. I mean, I guess that's kind of high shit tier, isn't it? It deals damage, it's dealing a fair amount of damage as well, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you don't need to make that card very big. You don't need to make your creature very large to be able to kill a Gaia's Revenge, do you? The problem comes when you try and kill 2 Gaia's Revenges. Then you're going to need quite a large creature, you know? What do we always say? We always say the wrong amount of damage to deal is any finite amount of damage. And that is, unfortunately, what this does. This is okay. I don't mind it. Yeah, absolutely high shit tier. This is going to wreck. When you put this in your deck of 10 unmastered cards, it's going to absolutely wreck your opponent's deck. There's no chance he's going to win. Not that that's ever a concern when you're mastering cards. You don't think your opponent's going to win, do you? So it really doesn't matter. But yeah, seems a bit high shit tier to me. It might even cause you some problems if it was played against you. It's not the most awful card in the world, but I don't like it. Destructor, Wanderglyph. When this creature attacks, exile the first 2 cards of your opponent's graveyard. I mean, just 7 mana, 3/4. Those are quite big numbers for a card that nobody's ever going to play. Dowsing Device. When the support enters the board, your first creature gets +2/+1 and haste. Okay. So there's the old haste problem, isn't there? Is that this is only going to work if you play your creature and this card on the same turn. If you've already played your first creature on a previous turn, haste means nothing at all. It's the old haste problem. Octagon are very bad on the haste problem. I'm hoping Webcore will learn this fairly soon. When you cast a support card with the artifact subtype, your first creature gets +1/+1. Okay. Now, I suspect, I'm a bit worried by this. I suspect when it says when you cast a support card, I think this is what's going to happen. In my experience of playing the game, it's going to be, this is what's going to happen, is that we're going to go and tell Webcore that, that this triggers when gold tokens are created. And then they're going to say, working as intended. Yeah? And then we're going to have the fucking cast versus summon debate all over again. That's what I think. Because let's face it, getting this card up to level 5 by casting supports with the artifact subtype, that's a lot. I think Webcore think that this triggers off summoning gold tokens. And I think they're going to defend their decision when we tell them it doesn't do that. And they own the fucking code and we don't. So we're just going to be screwed. That's what I think. But after that does happen, with our 5 gold tokens, or having to cast 5 artifacts, which would obviously be really bad, we then get to flip it over. Oh, Jesus Christ. And we get a bad land. The beginning of combat on your turn, your first creature gets... Well, I mean, at least that makes a little more sense. The beginning of combat on your turn, your first creature gaining sense, in a way that when this support enters the board, your first creature gains haste doesn't make that much sense, does it? So yeah, putting a bad land on the back of that card, we kind of don't care, do we? Don't care. Moving on. Dreadmore's Ire. Your first creature gets +2/+2, then destroy an opposing artifact support. What is going on with these mana costs? 13 mana. I mean, this has got to be an experience, hasn't it? Do you know, weirdly enough, the last time this happened, it was Hibernum, wasn't it? Making the first Ixalan set. We complained and they dropped a load of the mana costs before they released the set. Do you remember that? They were making all these 20 mana 4/4s and we said, look, fucking stop that shit. And they actually changed a lot of the costs before they did it. It's just got to be an experience. I mean, how much would you, if you had to guess how much that card cost, you'd say about 5 mana, wouldn't you? And you still wouldn't play it. Earthshaker Dreadmore. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each non-token creature you control. Then the first card in your hand gains 3 mana. That's definitely not good enough. Echo of Dusk, descend 2. Gets +1 and +1 and lifelink. You just make it a 3/3 lifelinker. Thanks very much. I mean, I suppose. Presumably, this is triggering every turn, isn't it? I suppose when you go, I'm not saying I'm going to play it, but I suppose when you've got your descend 2, every turn it's going to get bigger. So it's going to be a 3/3 lifelinker and a 4/4 lifelinker and a 5/5 lifelinker. So I'm definitely not saying I'm going to be playing with it, but we just should flag up that's probably how it's going to work. Echoing Deeps. I feel like that should be Echoing Deep, but we can have this argument some other time. They've probably taken that from the wording of the original WotC card. Activate 1. Return the first land support from your graveyard to the board under your control. At the beginning of your turn, convert 3 gems to your Planeswalker's colors. Yeah, Again, just too expensive, isn't it? You've got to make the lands appeal to spikes, people. You've got to make them, you know, cards that you want to play early and immediately have a good effect. And to be perfectly honest, 3 gems to your Planeswalker's colors is kind of not good enough, actually, because nobody is playing mono Planeswalkers, because mono Planeswalkers are all shit. We don't like it. We don't like playing them. We're all playing at least 2 colors. We're all playing Ral and fucking Dakon. That's who we're playing. Look at your stats. Just go and look at your stats, Webcore. How many mono Planeswalkers people are playing? Yeah? Anyone who's had the game more than a month, really not playing mono Planeswalkers. Instead, oh, right, here we go. Who needs fucking creatures? Now, I think this is a mistake. Obviously, this is fucking amazing. At the beginning of each player's combat, all creatures gain card attack until end of turn. At the beginning of your turn, your opponent loses X life. X is the number of creatures in play. So it just shuts down the fucking board. But I just think it's a terrible mistake. I've already said all of this on the forums. Creatures are bad enough as it is. And this card existing is just a discouragement to play creatures, you know? It's a very good control card. But if you want to play this control card in your own deck, you are discouraged from playing creatures as well. Not only are you thinking to yourself, oh, I'm not going to play creatures because I'm going to meet Ensnaring Bridges, but if you want to play this very good control card, you're not going to play creatures yourself. How are you going to win then? Well, you're just going to fucking play combo, aren't you? Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, I can see somebody playing Tainted Adversary with this, to be perfectly honest, you know? I don't necessarily need to build a combo deck. I could see somebody playing Tainted Adversary, you know, and just putting out 130 zombies, like you always do with Tainted. It always makes a lot more zombies than you ever expect it to, don't you? You know? And even though those zombies are going to do 1 damage each rather than 2 damage when they attack, still probably going to be good enough to kill somebody with. So I can see somebody playing Tainted Adversary with this thing, but you're more likely to just throw it into, you know, some deck that wins with beacon bolts and fucking whatever, you know. I don't like it. I don't like the way it just makes creatures worse when they are bad, and combo decks don't care. Cards like this shouldn't exist, I don't think. Test of Talents. Now we can talk, you know. Because, you know, combo decks are too good. It's obvious combo. You just have to look at Legacy and it's obvious combo decks are too good because everyone plays combo decks and people don't play creature decks. Yeah? Combo decks need to be made worse. Creatures don't need to be made worse because the average creature looks like that. Enterprising Scallywag. If you descended, create a gold token. Fuck off. Activate 2. Ooh, 2 white. Ooh, they're experimenting with the numbers now. Even Kevin could have told them, couldn't he? Kevin unfortunately got fired when Octagon left. You know, he's doing okay. Don't worry about Kevin. We made some AI art of Kevin actually the other day. He's living on a yacht somewhere in the Bahamas. He embezzled all of their cryptocurrency before they went bust, or got dismantled, or whatever happened. They kind of vanished, haven't they, Octagon? Nobody really knows what happened to them. But I know what happened to them. Kevin, the intern, he embezzled all of their cryptocurrency, and now he's living the life of Riley. But, you know, I think they should rehire him because he would have been able to say, activate 2 white to create a gnome token. Fuck off. Fabrication Foundry. At the beginning of your turn, if you control an artifact support with 2 or more shield. Well, this is an artifact support. It does have 3 shield, so it might well trigger. You gain 3 mana and 2 loyalty. It's a little low, isn't it? 3 mana and 2 loyalty. It's a bit on the low side. at the end of your turn, if you control one or more treasure tokens, I mean, maybe it means another artifact support. The fact that it says if you control an artifact support with 2 or more shield, and it immediately goes on to talk about treasure tokens, maybe Webcore just kind of forgot that it would count itself. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just doesn't look at itself. At the end of your turn, if you control one or more treasure tokens, you may destroy one of these tokens. If you do, you may return the first artifact card with base cost 12 or lower from your graveyard to the battlefield under your control. I mean, I'm not sure we care, do we? I'm not sure we care. There are better ways. Aren't there better ways of putting artifacts in? Haven't we seen 2 other cards that just put things straight into play without having to worry about treasure tokens? What I'm concerned about is we always do this thing, don't we, where I'm talking about me here, obviously, where poison tokens is a good example. Yeah, you know, we when we were looking at the Phyrexia All Will Be One set, all of the poison cards kept coming up, and I would say, well, if there's a poison deck, these will be good in it. You know, Wilds of Eldraine, if there's an adventure card deck, this card will be good at it. And there never is. we never are in that kind of environment, because the simple fact of the matter is that we're always in an environment with Blade Coil in it, and with Meteor the 5 and Rocco and, you know, just the most insane power cards in it. We're never in an environment where you're playing little synergies of edge case cards. So I don't think Fabrication Foundry is going to be any good at all. Family Reunion, creatures you control. Again, too expensive. And even before, just the simple fact that it's got flash and it costs 10 mana is making me think, nah, so they've made it too expensive. I don't even know what it does yet. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each of their reinforcements until the beginning of your turn. Then you and your creatures gain hexproof. It is irritating when your opponent gains hexproof, yeah. There is an effect in the Face the Hydra event that does that, isn't there? Your opponent gets hexproof and prevent damage, and it's a bit irritating, isn't it? What it means is that all your creatures that would have killed him this turn kill him next turn instead. So it's irritating and doesn't affect the outcome of the game in the slightest. Draw a card, create a map token. Fuck off. Fungal Fortitude. It's an exciting picture, isn't it? What's going on in the background there? Are those like, is that like a mushroom? Those are little freaky looking motherfuckers, aren't they? Are they mushroom goblins or something? I don't know what they are. Oh, and he's got mouths on his hand as well. I mean, that's just a horrible picture. Isn't it? Everything about that picture is just horrible. When this support enters the board, target creature gains enchanted. If it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. Yeah, I've seen effects like that before. They're not powerful enough. At the beginning of your turn, your first creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Yeah, not powerful enough. Discover 2, not powerful enough. Get Lost. Yeah, I know how you feel, mate. Destroy a random opposing creature. I mean, this is I'm really liking how this card looks. 5 mana. It's not blue, it's a shame, but or red. 5 mana. I don't even mind the flash too much. Destroy a random opposing creature. I mean, it's not great that it's destroying a random opposing creature and not the first opposing creature. I mean, if it says the first opposing creature or the last opposing creature on it, doesn't always mean that you get the right one. But it does mean that you know which one it's going to get. If you can't destroy a random opposing non-Vanguard support, I approve this wording. Non-Vanguard. None of this, oh, it didn't say it specifically targeted Vanguards, and that means it doesn't target. No, people don't fucking read like that. Think about how actual humans process language. Yes, I approve of the wording non-Vanguard support. None of this fucking non-land either. Non-Vanguard support. That's an excellent way of writing it. I like that. If you can't destroy a random opposing artifact support, okay, well, that's weird. I was praising them there for using the term non-Vanguard support. I actually think now maybe they've written non-Vanguard by accident. They meant non-land. No, it can't even be that, can it? Because the thing is, if you can destroy an opposing non-Vanguard support, yeah, then it's going to be an opposing artifact. It's never going to get to that third. I wonder what the hell they were thinking there. It's never going to get to the third clause, is it? Anyway, it destroys a creature. If it doesn't, it destroys the support. The 2 map tokens I will give away. That's perfectly okay. It's not nothing giving away 2 Explore 2s. It's not nothing. There's some gem conversion in there. Gem conversion always might end up with Greg getting a big cascade and giving you some grief. So it's not nothing, but that is a decent card for 5 mana. We like it. It's an exclusive, apparently. Moving on. Gelter, Stampede. Yeah, you're all excited now, aren't you? You're all, at this point, I must just give a shout out to my man Goz. I don't even know if he's done this thing now, but he sent me a message the other day to say, do I want to be part of a little thing that he's doing? He's written a song all about Gelter. And he wanted to know if I wanted to be a part of the audience. He wanted me to do it, and I honestly, I didn't think that I could pull it off. I considered it. It would have been, good exposure for me on a popular channel. Are you up to 1,000 subscribers yet, Goz? He's doing very well. He's got a very popular channel, and he gave me the opportunity to be a part of his skit. As I say, I don't know if he's actually released this video yet or not. But I'm sure it's great. He's very good with his musical stuff. Go and check that out. But thank you for thinking of me, Goz. But I think you and I both know. I would have made a total dog's breakfast of it. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. This is a combo card, isn't it? I'm afraid to say this is a combo card. I mean, the Timmies will still actually like this one because it is a 15/15 creature. Yeah. So there may well be Timmies putting this into their deck and just going, not only have I got this big creature, I've got all my other expensive cards as well. But really, it is a combo piece. The thing that excites me most about this card, if I'm perfectly honest, is the fact that if I put this into my Legacy Waterveil combo deck, I'll get to play with 4 creatures, which sounds like a terrible idea, but Waterveil combo is one of my oldest, and I would still say probably best combo Legacy decks. But it does have a bit of a habit of winning too fast in certain Legacy Coalition events. If you get one of those Part the Waterveils out too early, sometimes it can just spit out far too many tokens, and then it can kill your opponent before you get the objectives, and you don't want that to happen. And so, in all seriousness, I quite like the idea of having 4 different creatures in the deck. That would be Ulven Wild Hydra. That would be this Gelter. That would be Barrel would be the 3rd one, and Waterveil tokens would be the 4th one. And then you could let the combo run, and then you could just every so often you could just build over one creature with another creature and just stop it winning too fast. It sounds silly, but honestly, I think it might even be a good idea. I don't know. It might be a terrible idea. Anyway, clearly this is a card. It's only rare as well. That's interesting. And the Timmies will like it, and the Johnnies will like it, and the Spikes won't like it. But, get hold of it. Do get hold of that card. Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro. The beginning of your turn, pirate creatures gain flying. Right, it's not a good start. When a pirate creature you control attacks, all creatures you control get +3/+3. Now, I like this, actually. I really like the way that they haven't put fucking bravery on the card. Obviously, it's shit that this card is going to trigger, and it's going to trigger after another card, yeah? So in one sense, it's bad that it hasn't got bravery on it, but I like the way that Webcore have forgotten about bravery. I really hope they carry on, because there's never a reason to put bravery on a fucking card. I've been playing Jumpstart. Yeah, don't fucking look at me like that. I've been playing Jumpstart recently. I played with the Basri Ket deck. And there's all kinds of reasons why bravery is terrible. Kept popping up. You know? One time I got 2 creatures with bravery. So even though the one creature with bravery was supposed to be attacking first and pumping up the second creature, it didn't work because the other creature had bravery as well. So it fucked it up. You know, there's never any reason for bravery. It must have been so hard for Octagon to code bravery. I mean, they can't even write a fucking coalition event without fucking everything up. Can you imagine how difficult it was for them to swap the order of the creatures round on the battlefield? It must have been so hard. And there's never any reason to do it. Just make all of these effects trigger at the start of combat. That's all you got to do. None of this fucking moving around with bravery shit is awful. Probably runs like a dog. Almost certainly causes crashes. So I like the way they forgot. Even though this card is bad, because it might trigger in the wrong order. Not that it makes any fucking... It's only giving +3/+3 to fucking creatures you control. I like the way they forgot about bravery. Well done. Now, if you could just get rid of the tap symbol as well, that would make me happy. When a pirate creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, create a copy of that card in your hand. It gains 5 mana. I mean, just generally not powerful. I'm not even excited about that as a high shit tier card. You can't get excited about a 10 mana 2/3, can you? I suppose he's going to be pumping himself. I suppose he is attacking as a 10 mana 5/6. Yeah, okay. I can make him a high shit tier then in that case if he's a 10 mana 5/6 attacking. You know, if he was a 10 mana 2/3, he'd be about as good as one of the shitty commons. He would not be high shit tier. He would not be one of the best cards you were mastering in a deck full of unmastered cards. But considering he attacks as a 10 mana 5/6, I guess he can be high shit tier. But a bit underwhelming as a masterpiece, isn't he? As long as you control an artifact, creature gets haste, blah. Golden Wish. More masterpiece action. Fetch the first 2 artifact, support, or Vanguard cards from your library. So it presumably means artifact support, comma, or Vanguard. Yeah? Let's say it means that. Because it wouldn't make any sense to be artifact. Well, it might. I suppose it might get artifact creatures if it was artifact, comma, support, or Vanguard cards. Let's say it's artifact, support, or Vanguard cards. Those cards gain full mana. We always like full mana, don't we? We like things getting full mana. Then convert 20 gems to loyalty gems. Now that is interesting, isn't it? We've never had that effect before. How much loyalty do you think 20 gems converting to loyalty gems are? Your first thought is it's going to immediately fill up your ultimate, isn't it? Is it actually going to do that? 20 gems to loyalty gems. You think you'd easy get 9 loyalty off that? Yeah? You think you'd probably get 15 loyalty off that? Is it going to fill up your ultimate? Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to see from experience, to be perfectly honest, whether, you know, every time you cast this card, it means you can immediately use your ultimate ability. Seems like maybe not, though. I don't know. 20's a lot, isn't it? 20's a lot more than 10. I'm thinking, you know, it might whiff like cut your losses, but doesn't cut your losses only convert 10 gems? Maybe it does. Maybe every time you cast this card, your loyalty just fills up. That'd be good, wouldn't it? So we're getting 2 cards. And we're getting, you know, we might get a cascade off the back of this, but it's kind of unimportant, isn't it? Because if we've already got a massive amount of loyalty and we've already put 2 cards in our hand and filled them full of mana, any actual mana we get off a cascade is probably a little bit by the by. I mean, it's a combo piece, isn't it? That's the it goes in the combo deck, doesn't it? Is a Timmy going to be playing with that? I mean, Timmies Timmies do like playing with Pyromancer's goggles. Do they like the fact that they put the Pyromancer's goggles out and then the Pyromancer's goggle fetches this and then this fetches the Pyromancer's goggles? Maybe they don't like that. Well, maybe they don't care. Maybe they just think they're unlucky if that happens. Again, it's not a bad card. It does seem a bit like a combo piece, TM, which we have too many of, while at the same time they're busy nerfing fucking creatures. Yeah, I'm sure there are players out there who are already wetting themselves at the thought of this thing. Maybe we just have too many combo pieces. This is by no means the last combo piece we're going to encounter. We've already seen two really good ones, haven't we? In Ripley Vance, we've seen Galter earlier. By no means the last combo piece we've seen. So, and you can only put 10 good combo cards into a deck. This is obviously one. This is obviously a good combo piece. If you're a combo player, go and get that card. At the beginning of your turn, your first creature gains lifelink and death touch. No, we don't like lifelink for 13 mana, do we? What have we had in the past? We've had Shadow Spear. That gave something +3/+3 and lifelink and took hexproof off creatures and did a couple of other little random things as well. That was not the worst card that's ever been put into print. There was another one, wasn't there? There was another rare card that it was an equipment that used to give things lifelink, and then when the creature died, it would draw a bunch of cards and put a load of mana into it. That was okay. So that's the kind of area we're looking at. What we're getting here is paying 13 mana for lifelink, and then we've got to attack 4 times to flip it. I'm really dreading this, because my theory is when we flip this card over, it's all that effort is going to have given the creature +2/+2. Oh, it's a land. The beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to black gems, and you draw a card and lose 2 life. Well, I was not expecting a land to be on the other side of that. It's not the best land in the world, is it? I can think of much better ways of drawing 2 cards. Does anyone remember a card we saw earlier that cost 17 mana and did 2 Discover 4s at the end of every turn? You really got to be asking yourself why you're playing with Grasping Shadows when you could get hold of that thing. And yes, you can. You can. There's a Battle from the Ages coming. Don't talk to me about not having enough pinks to get hold of that. There's a Battle from the Ages coming up. Grind the hell out of that over the Christmas holidays. Greedy Freebooter. When it dies, draw a card and create a gold token. Way too small. This is a 9 mana 5/5. That's really quite large for an uncommon, isn't it? When this creature enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more artifact supports, including their reinforcements, this creature gets +1/+1 for each of its reinforcements. I mean, that's just a very weird way of wording it. I mean, you understand like mistakes in translation, but to me, this sounds like whoever made the card in the first place didn't know what they're talking about. Like, they didn't speak a first language, let alone a second language. Anyway, it's a larger than average uncommon, which is definitely still not good enough to play with. Hall of Gemstone. This is a throwback, isn't it? Hall of Gemstone, I believe, was originally in Mirage in paper. What have we got? 15. Mana field, gain an extra swap. Then increase your mana bonuses by 7. I mean, mana field doesn't trigger when it comes into play. Unless it does, unless it's broken in some way, or they just don't know what they're doing. I think the Johnnies are still going to be playing with spells that give an extra swap, like Temporal Mastery, aren't they? Because they're not going to want to wait until next turn. Trap 8. like Trap. Does anyone remember Trap? When was the last time there was a Trap card? There were some in the last Ravnica set, weren't there? I remember a black and red Trap card that made zombies. You really don't see a lot of Trap cards. Now that is a lot of Trap. Trap 8 is a lot of Trap. 10 damage is a lot of damage. There's a lot of power in this card. It seems just kind of generally unreliable for my liking. You know, it's got the same problem that Manafield always has. What if it just lands in the corner? And then you don't get to do it? It probably won't, and you're probably going to get a lot of extra turns out of it. So I think you'd have to say it's good, but probably a bit unreliable. Yeah, I don't think I can say much more than that, to be perfectly honest. I highly doubt I'd ever end up playing with it. It being too unreliable. But there's certainly a lot of power in there, isn't there? Return the first creature that costs 8 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I very much doubt that this is going to have any type of use. Is it? Mind you, how much does Rocco cost? If you can play this and then Rocco just goes sping. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not really kept up with Rocco. They've nerfed Rocco like 2 or 3 times over the years. And I believe he might have finally got to the point now where he's not absolutely broken as fuck. So I don't know. If this card is going to be good with something, it's probably going to be Rocco, isn't it? You know, you're probably going to put this into a deck that only has one card, the one creature card that costs 8 or less. So you know you're always getting the right one out. You're going to be getting a lot of value out of that card, like with Rocco, because maybe it fills up the X mana, and then you go and get to fetch something much, much bigger out of your deck. Who knows? Over to you, Johnnies. Figure it out. It's uncommon. It was not hard to get hold of, so we'll all be getting hold of it soon enough. I say that. Do you want to know how many common cards I don't have from Wilds of Ixalan? I think it's about 16. I've bought so few because it's such a worthless piece of shit set. I bought so few boosters. I've got basically the entire set left to craft. They'll all turn up. I've stopped opening free boosters. You know, my levels of engagement of the game are still really low as a result of Octagon kind of murdering it. So I stopped watching ads a while ago. I just couldn't be asked. I've stopped opening the free boosters, and that has an effect on how many of the commons and uncommons I have. I mean, I've never bought premium pack. I say never. I stopped buying premium packs, I don't know, a couple of years ago maybe, when premium packs release. I just get the good cards that I want out of elite boosters. I don't know why. That was a massive tangent to go on, wasn't it? About my own personal collection. Yeah, Helping Hand might be a thing. Let somebody else who's good at combos figure out whether there's a really good use for that card. Maybe it'll show up in something. Who knows? Hit the Motherlode. When you cast this card, discover 4, then discover 4, and create 4 gold tokens. I mean, this is more like what would be talking for 14 mana. I'm not sure this is good enough for 14 mana, but maybe it is. It's certainly not good enough for 14 mana in Legacy, isn't it? Only getting half the mana in those cards. Getting 2 very specific cards. You know, that's a lot of digging on Discover 4. But you're only putting half the mana in them. There might be some, I don't know. There might be something in Atraxa, you know, Atraxa putting half the mana in cards and Discover putting half the mana in cards. Maybe there's something going on there. I don't know. Enjoy yourselves, Johnnies, with that kind of thing. That is a good card. don't know if it's good enough for me. Don't know if it's good enough for me. I mean, probably. So I like to keep my mana curve small. So half mana is probably a lot less mana for me than it is for you all out there. You know, half mana for me is 4 mana into a Ren and 6, or 5 mana into a Void Rend. You know, very difficult to get excited about that amount of mana. Half mana for you lot. All you Johnnies out there, it's 13 mana, isn't it, into an Atraxa, or however much it costs. You know, that is a good card. I'm not sure it's good enough for me. Better than high shit tier. But again, right, this is better than high shit tier, but is it even going to be high shit? Is this even going to be the card that you play? If you're mastering cards, you're not even going to play this first, are you? You're going to play the creature first, because it actually hits your opponent and kills them. If you cast this and get a couple of rubbish creatures and put half mana, you're still going to have to fill up the rest of the mana. The whole system of high shit tier kind of falls down at this point, doesn't it? Because this is obviously better than high shit tier, but actually its function within a deck that you're mastering is probably going to be that it's worse than creatures. Anyway, I'm not offended by that card. Hoverstone Pilgrim. Drain 4 mana. It's not very expensive ward. At the beginning of your turn, return first card from target player's graveyard to the bottom of the arcade. Not at all important. Whatley! Craft 3 land. Oh, Jesus. I'm a bit worried about crafting 3 land. I mean, land is it's all on the backside of cards. How do we get our hands on actual lands? That sounds kind of terrible to me. 9 mana 3/4. But when this card enters the battlefield, fetch the first land card from your library with mana value 15 or less. I mean, okay, it puts one of them in your hand. You're still going to have to get 2 more land from somewhere. They're going to have to be cards that you don't mind being in your deck when you build it. Craft 3 land just seems like bad numbers, doesn't it? When it's crafted, exile it and get Roar of the Fifth People. What have we got here? We've got an Enchantment Saga. Create 4 green dinosaur tokens. We can't click on that, obviously. Why would we want to? Why would we want to know what our cards do? We don't want to know what our cards do. We just want to give you money. That's all this game is, Webcore. It's just an excuse for you to siphon money. We don't care about any of it. Don't make it good or anything. Don't make the user interface at all usable. Just let us give us your money. That's all we want out of it. We're going to assume green dinosaurs are 3/3, so that's probably a 12/12. Creatures you control get +3/+3 for each of their reinforcements. So we're doubling that 12 up to a 24/24. Fetch the first dinosaur card from your library with mana value 12 or less. Well, that's almost certainly going to be absolute dog shit, isn't it? A dinosaur card that costs 12 or less. I mean, I haven't really been paying attention. Oh, do you know what I haven't been paying attention to? I haven't been paying attention to cards that cost 11 mana. We can do that maybe at the end. Maybe I shouldn't be reviewing cards in alphabetical order at all. Maybe I should be doing them in cost order, which would be a weird way of doing it. It would clump different types of cards. But it would mean that I remember to review cards from the point of view of Colours of Magic, the event. But yeah, it seems unlikely there's a good dinosaur card that costs 12 mana or less. Dinosaur cards get Trample and Double Strike. So those 4 green dinosaurs are going in hard eventually. Slowly. They start quite big and they get bigger and bigger, don't they? The problem is just craft 3 land, isn't it? And honestly, that seems like an insurmountable problem to me. I can't imagine there's a deck that plays with 3 land that can just craft 3 of them and is happy to do so. In order to get this thing out. Yeah. Can't imagine that's any good at all. Target creature you control gets +2/+1 until the beginning of your next turn. Oh, thank you very much. Beginning of your next turn, not even until end of turn. That is actually better than until end of turn. Thank you for 7 mana. Then deal damage. Yeah, too expensive. Oh, there you go. There's a dinosaur that costs 12 mana or less. Let's see if we actually want to fetch it. Ward, drain 4 mana. Yeah, at the beginning of combat. That's not saying. Is that saying you can ward by draining mana out of your opponent's hand? Is that what that's saying? Surely it's not. Surely that's just a normal ward effect, and they've just written it weirdly. Yeah? You've got to assume that. Draining mana out of your opponent's hand would be silly and extremely unreliable. Surely they just have written it wrong. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you didn't match green gems, convert 3 gems to green. Well, there you go. If that's the type of dinosaur we're fetching with this effect, then it's shit. But it doesn't matter especially because we're getting, you know, double striking green dinosaurs with +3/+3 for each of their reinforcements. And even that doesn't matter because we have to fucking craft 3 fucking land. I want to sky. I've seen it. Sounds something that sounds like a land, Ice Cave. I don't want to look at Hunter's Blowgun. I want to look at Ice Cave. It looks more exciting, doesn't it? Let's get this over with. The beginning of your turn, your first creature gets +2/+1 and Death Touch. Pointless. Then if you control another artifact, your first creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You've got to assume that this 1 shield is a mistake, haven't you? Given that there's no reason for it to have 1. Like maybe if it said something when it died, if it did something when it died, you'd think that wasn't a mistake. You've got to assume that that's just a mistake. Whatever, it's pointless. Let's get on to the thing I wanted to do. When this support enters the board, your creatures gain hexproof permanently. Well, that's good. 17 mana, that's bad. At the beginning of your turn, increase this card's level by 1. This is starting to look really bad, this card, isn't it? Then if pay X life, yeah, definitely looking bad. So increase its level and you're draining that much life. If you do, drain X mana from the first 2 cards in your opponent's hand. Yeah, that's very slow lockdown, isn't it? The idea that that could be any type of lockdown is rather ludicrous. You know, and nobody's playing with Jace's Sanctum. So who the hell's going to be playing with Ice Cave? Nope. Point a really, really bad one, that, to be honest. Idol of the Deep King. We've got craft 1 artifact. Okay, we don't mind crafting 1 artifact. When it enters the board, 2 damage to the last opposing creature. Rubbish. When it's crafted, they've all got 1 shield. Why have everything got 1 shield? Who cares about giving for your first creature +2/+1 with 1 shield? Bad. Pick one of the first 4 different land or creature cards from your library, then destroy the other cards. Yeah, just 10 mana. Do you like that one, Goz? No, of course you don't. Inti, how are we doing for time? When did we start? We started at 9. Blimey, have we really been going for nearly 3 hours? Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to feel a bit tired. And I am still drinking this monster at nearly midnight. That seems like a terrible idea, doesn't it? So I think maybe we should do 2 or 3 more cards and then stop. That's a terrible time to stop, actually. But I'm not going to go halfway through the set before we stop. So let's get up to card number 100. And then do the other 2 more sensibly. I'm really surprised. No, I suppose we haven't been going for 3 hours because it took me the best the best part of half an hour to just get the chat working, didn't it? So we'll do a couple more cards and then we'll call it a night for the night, shall we? At the beginning of combat on your turn, says Inti, Seneschal of the Sun, you may discard a card. If you do, your first creature gets +2/+2 permanently at least, and it's quite a cheap creature, but still not big enough. Then that creature gains trample. When you discard a card, discover 2. Okay, now this is the type of thing I was talking about, wasn't I? This is a 5 mana creature And every turn you discard a card, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and put half mana into it. This is what I wanted earlier, isn't it? I was hoping it wasn't going to say you had to discard a card on it. But honestly, that might be spiky enough to play. The mere fact that it costs 5 mana, and it's fucking rare, mind you. The mere fact that it costs 5 mana, which frankly is probably less than the removal that your opponent would have to pay for it. Oh, blimey, it doesn't even have to attack. Look at that. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. When you discard a card, discover 2. So you do need to discard a card, but it immediately replaces that card with a card with half its mana in it. And it gets bigger. I mean, it doesn't get bigger fast enough, but the fact that it's just cheap and it's drawing cards and giving you a lot of mana, I mean, this seems very Steve. Seems very, very Steve to me. I might well be playing with this bad boy. What am I missing? What am I missing that makes it bad? I mean, obviously, the discarding a card makes it bad, but, you know, I don't think it makes it bad enough. I think that is a really nice card. Moving along, Inverted Iceberg. There's something in the ice. I don't know what it is. Craft 4 artifact. Jesus Christ. Do they even know how big your hand is? 4 artifact. When this card enters the battlefield, destroy the top 2 cards of your library, then draw 1 card. When this card is crafted, create an Iceberg Titan token. Well, this is a common, isn't it? I mean, we said before that whatever it crafted was going to have to be really good, and that was on an uncommon card, and it was bad. This is going to be fucking awful. It's a 6/6. When it attacks... Oh, do you know what? That's a lot better than we saw on that last card, wasn't it? When this creature attacks, the first opposing creature gains stun counter 1. Now, stun counter does a weird thing, doesn't it? It doesn't lock down the creature. Now, I think the way that stun counter works is it doesn't lock the creature down immediately. It locks because it doesn't automatically disable it, but it does disable at the end of the start of their next turn. So if I was to play this creature, when it attacked, it wouldn't stop that creature from blocking, but it would stop it from attacking back permanently. So yeah, this is much, much better than that uncommon one. The problem is craft artifact 4, isn't it? And that's going to be the thing that makes that unplayable. If we had an iceberg, how much would you pay for a 6/6 creature that gave the first opposing creature stun counter 1 every turn? You'd pay a fair bit for that, wouldn't you? If that cost 5 mana, you'd play the fuck out of that card, wouldn't you? But having to craft 4 artifacts, I fear, nerfs it way below the level that anybody would give a flying fuck about it. Sorry. Right, this is card number 100. We'll make this the last one. I love his haircut. Obviously, I do. Anybody who's seen my Twitter avatar? No. So I like a nice Mohican. And this is Isthquinth, firstborn of Gishath. Gishath was one of the big dinosaur gods. I can't remember which one Gishath was. Was Gishath one the big dinosaur that fetched another big dinosaur? I think it was. When this creature enters the battlefield, deal X damage to the first opposing creature. X is the power of your first creature. Just absolutely not big enough. Absolutely not big enough and trash. So, I mean, I think we've seen a few cards here and there, haven't we? I like this. I do like this one. I can see myself playing with that. I wouldn't mind playing that turn 1 again. I don't like playing Teferi, Hero of Dominaria turn 1 against Pajami. I wouldn't mind playing one of these turn 1 against Pajami. That's all right, isn't it? Yeah, I think we've seen some things. There are some disturbing trends, like like activate one. But Discover's going to make some things good. And I think we'd better call it a night because, yes, the clock is rolling around to midnight. Maybe I ought to put the rest of this can of Monster in the fridge because I am not going to get to sleep for quite some time. Thank you, everyone, for being with me. I'm afraid I've not been looking at the chat very much tonight. I tried to say hello to people as they came in, but you know, the problem is that I used to find it easier to pace around the room with my phone. I do this on my tablet now because my poor eyesight has trouble picking up all the bloody text on my little phone screen these days. And my tablet is a lot bigger and heavier, so I spend a lot more time sitting in my chair. I'll have to try and see if I can figure out some system that means I can see the chat more. Aren't I supposed to get the chat up on my screen? Last time when I did this. Oh, there's the chat. Hello, chat. How are you? That would have been nice if that had been coming up the whole time. Is that... Where? Did I do that by turning that on and off? Oh, it's gone now. I don't even know what I've done. Great. Well, I should experiment with this at another time, shouldn't I? Thank you all for being in. That is the end of the stream for this evening. There will be another stream. As is usual, I will not be streaming 2 nights in a row, but I'll try and do part 2 within a day or two. Keep half an eye on social media or any notifications that you might have popping up on different apps. I will be on YouTube again. Hopefully the feed didn't go all low res. I'll check it later, actually. I can't seem to check it at the moment. And I will see you all soon. Okie dokie. Goodbye.